Showtime.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How is all doing? see who's all here in the chat. We got 10 people in chat. Hey, Sean, are you jumping on there, bro? If you're still in here. Hey, Z, what's up, man? Chester. Hey, Rosalia. How are you? Hey, Texas. Sean's here.
Yo, what's up, man?
Not much, you.
All right. Give me 1 minute. I'm still setting up here.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Jen. Hey, how are you? Hey, Sebastian. Hey, Brooke. Hey, Chester. Hey, Sebastian. What's up, bro? Hey, Honky. What's up, man? And Jim's movie channel. Hey, Jim. And Ashton. Hey, bro. 71. Hey, 71. Cal Al. Hey, Cal.
So it's just gonna be us two?
Yeah, I do believe, yeah.
Yeah, I saw Derek over at Woo Riders said something about wanting to join. I was like, he ain't gonna show up. He might show up in the chat.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. Yeah, I did my list earlier today, and yeah, man, the 80s was the toughest for sure. 'Cause there's so many good movies, and there's a couple honorable mentions, but the
Yeah.
90s, the 90s wasn't too bad, and then I find the 2000s wasn't too bad either, and then it's like when you get to 2010, it's like there's not too many really good movies that stand out that much, really. It wasn't that hard to pick, but it gets kind of harder too because the movies are just not as enjoyable as in the 70's, 80's. You could see them starting to decline if you look at each decade, I find.
Yeah, when I was putting my list together and I was looking at that, I was like, man, dude, there's just nothing but remakes and sequels
Yeah,
and shit.
right.
I was able to put this list together fairly quick, but the fact that we're
Okay.
going through one movie per decade, I have to have an honorable mention for each decade. So technically, I'll have at least one honorable mention for all 5 decades here.
Yeah.
But 70's and 80's was probably the toughest out of all of it.
It was, yeah, 70's and 80's. I agree. It was.
But yeah, other than that, what's up, everyone in the chat?
Are we picking 5 for each decade? Yeah.
Other than that, what's up, everyone? Looks like we have 13 people in the chat right now. What's up, Sebastian, Jim's Movie Channel, Zodiac, Chester, Rosalia, 71 KJC, Cal L Daly, Ashton Luck. Yeah, what's up, everyone? And Jen over at Devious Diva. What's up, Jen? So, what's this going to be like? An hour and a half, 2 hour stream, something like that?
Yeah, an hour and a half, probably.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to, before the month is over, I'm trying to do a top 5 stream for action movies. So I got to see if I can find time to get that squeezed in somewhere. I already have 10 fucking streams scheduled for the month. We already got through 5 of them, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the action movies would be fun too. Yeah. This was Brooke's idea, but I forget if she wanted to do 5 of each, horror, action, and whatever. I don't know. But anyways, I was just doing the horror first. I thought it'd just be better that way. I don't know. It'd
Well,
be
yeah,
harder, I
you
think.
focus on each genre, really,
Yeah.
But hey, what's up, Brooke?
We're all giving our number ones first. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
So we're going from 1 to 5 then.
Yeah.
All right.
It's 90 where you were at. Oh, shit, man. That's hot. Yeah. 90s and 80s decades. Awesome with finding a lot of 2000 ones recently I like. Yeah. Rosie idea, not Brooks' idea. Oh, was it? Sorry, Rosalie. I thought it was Brooks' idea for some reason. Sorry.
So we're doing what decade? Are we starting on the 70s, right?
Yeah, we'll start with the 70s.
All right.
Yeah, you don't have to behave here. She says, I've been drinking, so I'll have to behave and mostly just watch.
That's another reason why I like joining you for streams. There's no censor bar, there's no filter. It's you could just be yourself. You don't have to fucking walk on eggshells for people's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, what you see is what you get with me. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's like one of the vibes I really got from like discovering you and your channel. It was just like, like he's not much different than I am, really. He's laid back and just wants to, elaborate and talk about these movies and just have fun and not be a fucking pussy about it and fucking get on people's shit about streaming at the same time as some other people. I still can't believe somebody did that to me. And this guy considers me a friend. Like, yeah. Sorry you treat your friends that way.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up. 80s is the best decade for me, movies and also music.
Yeah, I think the late 70s really paved the way for the 80s.
Oh, they did for sure. Hell yeah. It had a lot of influence for sure, from shock rock to fucking all types of shit. Movies, like horror movies, slasher movies, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, doing any kind of top 5, whatever the number is tough to do. You could be solid on one pick and you're like, well, but that one too. Like, what the fuck? That's another reason why I have honorables here. I can't just, get through a whole decade and talk about one movie.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, for sure. Black Christmas is Jen's favorite. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Like,
that one definitely crossed my
definitely a good
mind,
movie.
for sure. It's Black Christmas is probably up there as really like one of my favorite slasher films ever. It's definitely my favorite Christmas horror film, but I really think I don't know, man, the tone and the mood of that movie and the atmosphere and the whole mystery of it. Like once you know Billy's up in that attic, you don't get a lot of focus on that, so that kind of swims around in your head for a while.
Yeah. It's a great movie. Your 80s honorable mention is The Fog. Yeah, The Fog's a good one.
Yeah, I think The Fog is more atmospheric. It delivers on an atmospheric level, really. It's kind of a bit slow sometimes in some areas of it, but I think just the theme of it, the fact that you have fog in the movie, fog rolls in very slowly. Therefore,
Yeah,
the movie kind of moves slowly with it.
yeah, it creates great atmosphere for sure, man.
Yeah. I mean, like probably
so-
like the scariest part of the whole movie is when we like first see the pirates and they get on board that ship and it knocks out the dude's eyes with the fucking scythe weapon.
yeah,
That's probably the scariest part of the entire movie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we did a watch along to that, you and I. Yeah, that was fun. That
Yeah.
was a good one.
But it's been a while since I've done a top five. I think the last one we did on my channel was like the first week of this year. It was like a couple days after New Year's. We did a top five physical media releases from last year. I think that was the last one I did.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to watch that one. Is it on your channel or?
Yeah, it's if you go through like the live list on there, it's like I think it was January 3rd is when I did that. But there is one movie on here. It's like later on in like the 2000s that made my list where I was like, I'm kind of surprised that's making my list. But again,
Yeah,
the 2000s is kind of like, what the fuck? There's not a whole lot to pick from here, you know? It's really
no,
even
not
like,
really.
worth mentioning, really.
Yeah, I'm curious to know your ranking and everybody else's. I wonder like how close some of these will be. Um,
Yeah, I think we might have, one or two picks that might be the same. But I guess, we'll see what happens.
yeah. Brooke says, so how are we doing it? Giving it at one time? Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So, yeah, most people are giving their now. Just let me know when you're ready to. So,
Yeah, I'm good to go. Damn, we're already like 17 minutes into this. I feel like we
I know it
just went
didn't feel like it did.
live.
All right, did you want to go first or me?
It don't matter. However you want to do, it's fine with me.
All right, you go ahead first.
All right. So, all right. Yeah, I guess. I don't know if you want to hit the solo thing or not. It's up to you.
Uh, how do I do
See.
that? Oh
I
yeah, I
think
see
you
it.
like
Never
touch the
mind.
screen. I know
Yep.
how that is, dude. Like when you don't use something for a while, you're like, "What the fuck? Like, how do you do this shit?"
You're good now,
But
though.
so wait, we're going at number one first.
Yeah,
Like, so number one, what decade are we on? Like, I'm a little like
70s. We'll start with
70s.
70s and then go from your number one to five. Yeah.
All right, so all
How
right,
I
this
want.
would be like I don't know why I'm like having trouble thinking right now, but so yeah, my number one for the 70s decade throughout the entire 70s. This wasn't exactly easy to do. I was thinking of really, landing on The Exorcist. That's a really big movie for me. It's just a movie I can easily watch and never get tired of, but I had to pull that one out. I mean, I even thought about Halloween there briefly. It's definitely one of the best slashers, something I never get sick of watching. It's definitely an annual watch for me every year, but I had to land on a movie that really started it all for me. This movie is really what opened me up to cinema in general. And yeah, it's just, I'm sure some people will agree with me on this. I know over the years, some people, it seems to be a popular trend to shit on this movie, which I don't really understand, but overall, I think this is just one of the most undeniable films of all time throughout any decade, really. But yeah, my number one here for the 70s has got to be the 1975 film Jaws.
Yeah,
So
fuck
yeah,
yeah.
this movie is really what opened me up to cinema, and it's really the first thing as far as watching stuff on TV. The first thing to really put the fear of terror into my life,
Hell
and
yeah.
for most people, it's it really made people look at the ocean in a different sense, and for
Mm-hmm.
me too, it definitely fucked my day up every time I went to the shore after seeing this movie. But I don't know. I think it's a damn near perfect movie, really. Obviously, Steven Spielberg had some issues with getting this movie, executed and done right. They went way over budget at times. And, this was like a make or break movie, really, for Steven Spielberg, too, as most of you guys know. It was either this was going to, do well and put him on the map, or it's going to do bad and he's just going to fade out and be known as nobody. But yeah, it's really what opened him up, as a film director and everything. And we got so many great films from Steven Spielberg after this. And yeah, I mean, like if I were to do like a top five directors, I think Spielberg would probably come in there somewhere. But Yeah, I just think Jaws is really an undeniable movie. I don't get sick of it. I can watch this at least once a year, and yeah, so that would be my number one for the 70s. But my honorable mention here, it was like, this is like the tough part, was like, damn, dude, I gotta leave that one out because of this. But I have to give the credit to Jaws because that's really what opened me up to movies and everything, and really made me want to explore the rest of the horror genre. But my honorable mention here is Tobe Hooper's 1974 film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's a fairly short film, in my opinion. It's like an hour, 25 minutes, but I just love how this film plays out. I also love movies where you got teenagers, going to places where they shouldn't go, or if they get stuck in a house with some supernatural haunted shit throughout the movie. I just love that concept where, teenagers are looking for a good time and they end up, getting more than what they bargained for, and it just ends up turning into a crazy ass night. But yeah, that movie's just undeniable, man. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's another easy watch. I can put that on at any time. Like, even if I'm in the shittiest mood, I could put that on and it'll have me distracted. So,
Cool.
but yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
great
choices
one.
there for the 70s. So
Nice.
if you want to, you can exit out by doing the same thing again.
Right. Okay. So yeah, my number one for the 70s would have to go to Halloween, 1978 Halloween. Yeah, just like I don't know, the first time I seen it when I was a kid on Halloween night, and it was like the TV version too, like the one where you get those extra scenes in it. And just after seeing this like movie, it fucking really opened me up to slashers, like uh yeah, like how you mentioned Jaws, and like that was the first like horror movie I've ever seen, and it just like wow, like the shock factor of that really opened me up for horror movies. And then one Halloween I watched this, and yeah, and like the next day I had to go to the movie store and rent more of these movies because like I just loved it so much. Like fuck man, it's
Yeah,
classic. It
I think
just
Halloween's so effective because the fact that it has the Halloween season, it just has all those themes throughout it. I mean, it does say it takes place in Haddonfield, Illinois, which is supposed to represent Haddonfield, New Jersey, which is like technically about 10 minutes from me where I live. But, it's besides those little, like, and like those things that aren't so perfect about it. I just think
mhm,
it does like John Carpenter does a really good job with Halloween with not giving much backstory to
yeah,
Michael Myers, and it makes you just focus more on what he's focused on, and he's just determined on getting his hands on his sister and killing her. And I think that's another reason why this franchise doesn't really work. How far can you really extend a story of a guy trying to fucking hunt down his sister
I know,
before
I
it gets
get it,
dragged
I
through the
get it.
mud and becomes repetitive and played the fuck out?
Oh, it
Now that's
does.
just me personally. Like I know a lot of people really adore this franchise, but I mean, I'd like to know what crystal meth they're smoking. But I don't know. The first two movies is really what does it for me, and then the third one as a standalone. With I think the third one is probably the best Halloween themed movie you can really watch. But
Yeah,
I
it's
also
definitely one
remember
of it.
with the original Halloween. I remember I was like when I was like in high school, it was like one of the first girlfriends I really had, and we were going to the video store to try to figure out what to watch. And I was like, "You ever see Halloween? Like, we should watch that." And she's like, "No, I never seen it." I was like, "Oh, great, you're gonna love this." It was the total fucking opposite. Her sister, and her friend were there, and they were fucking terrified, running out of the living room the whole night. I was like, "Wow, this is a bad idea." Like, but it's just how effective this slasher is, man. It's Halloween's really, it's not talked about and praised for no fucking good reason. It's really up there as a top tier slasher, and it's another one that really paved the way for John Carpenter. I know he already had some films under his belt before this, but this is really what got him noticed and what gave us more horror films along the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like yeah, everything about it for me, it's my favorite like horror film of all time too. Yeah. Wow. Devious Diva Jen says only saw Jaws a few months ago. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I know we all can't see every movie, but I mean, if you're a fan of like action, thriller, horror, you got to see Jaws at some point, right? But that's good to see she finally saw it. But and just this, like I know that the novel's different, it's better, the shark's bigger, it's more graphic. Like I don't really care about the novel. I just don't.
Yeah.
I know it's good. I don't care about it that much. But man, just seeing a massive shark on screen like that, and then the scene when the shark actually gets boosted out of the water, gets enough speed to actually come out of the water and land on half of that fucking orca boat. It's just like, what the fuck, dude?
Right. I know. And I'll just do my number two while we're talking about it, might as well. So Jaws is my number two pick for sure, man. Like that scene there where like, why don't you come down here and shovel this shit? And then it just comes right out of the water like that. And then when he jumps on the boat, like you're saying, he's fucking just chewing it to pieces. Like it's so fucking evident. Like Quint's death, man. Like that, like tore or like yeah, it like fucking like terrified me as a kid, man. Like it just
All
looked
right.
so. It looks so real too. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like even when you see the meat and the flesh and his teeth and shit,
yeah,
it's like, oh, dude. But
right.
apparently, I went about this wrong. I thought we were doing one movie per decade. I didn't know we were doing five per decade. But
Oh,
I can go on. I
yeah.
can go on the fly here. So,
Okay,
but yeah,
shit. Sorry, dude.
my number two for the '70s would have to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I just I mentioned as an honorable mention, but yeah, my number two there has definitely got to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was hard to just not even have that at number one, but I when we're talking about the '70s, I always have to honor Jaws. It's really what opened me up to so many different films, and really why responsible for why I'm such a big fan of cinema as it is. And yeah, but yeah, coming in at number two would definitely be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I can continue
Nice.
going on the fly here.
Okay. Shit. I kind of feel bad. I thought you knew or I mentioned it.
No, I mean, we didn't really talk about it, so I was like, I guess we're just doing top five. So 5 decades, all right, I guess one movie per decade. But it's just a miscommunication, that's all.
Jim says Dawn of the Dead, the greatest horror film ever. In my opinion, The Thing is my favorite. Jaws would be on the list, but I've never considered it a horror movie. Yeah, some people don't, but I get like the horror aspects of Jaws for sure. I respect Jaws as your pick. I'm just a motherfucker about it. That's all good.
I just don't understand, like, like in like the past few years now, people are like, "Ah, fucking Jaws, I hate that movie." Like, I just see that talk a lot. I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, what?"
And it's fucking great, man. It's up there for being like one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I mean, like
Like the
I think the second
characters,
one is
and
good. Like Jaws 2, I think is a good movie, but the fact that we don't see much of the shark is why I think it loses something there. And I know the second movie they had some issues with the mechanical shark. There's even a scene when it comes out of the water and its mouth bends into a V, and it's like, fuck, that doesn't even look like a shark.
yeah, I know what
But
you mean. Yeah,
I
I
still like the story in Jaws 2, but the fact that we don't get much shark in it is like, okay. Like we could have did this with like a guy on a boat with a knife.
all right. So you did your number two, right? Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are we on number three now for the
Yeah.
'70s? So yeah, coming in at number three is this has probably got to be my favorite film from this director. Easily one of the most scariest films I ever seen. Still, like I mean, I'm kind of desensitized in a certain way to this point, but there's still times when I go back and watch this movie, it still gives me an eerie feeling. Kind of just makes you think in a direction that shouldn't even be thinking that deeply into. But this movie will really get you thinking sometimes and have you questioning some things about yourself and what you believe in. But coming in at number three is William Friedkin's The Exorcist.
Yeah. Fuck.
Just an undeniable film, man. Like it's as far as possession films go, I think that is the holy grail right there.
It is. It fucking is, man. Do you want me to put you in solo there? But yeah, that is okay. Yeah.
Now you may as well just keep it like this because we're going to
Okay.
be going through a lot of films.
Right.
So I think we'll just keep the format like this because I thought I was like another reason why I asked you how long the stream was. 'Cause I was like, all right, if we're just going to do 5 films throughout the 5 decades, it probably won't be that long. But I know next time that when we do like something like this, I'm gonna have to ask you a few questions before I jump into this.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, number three is definitely The Exorcist. I mean, this is what really, seeing this movie is what like opened me up to possession films. Like, like as soon as I got through this, I was like, I want to see that movie, The Omen, and everything else that kind of was influenced or inspired by this movie. And I know William Friedkin as a director. Apparently, he really had people like some of these actors like working over their limits. Like apparently, Linda Blair had back issues from working on this movie. Apparently, she had some kind of like form of whiplash at one point in this movie.
Yeah.
But William Friedkin's always been that kind of director. He knows what he wants, and he's going to demand it. And if he doesn't get it, he's going to make your fucking day a living hell. So.
he, he was shooting guns off the set to get reaction out of um the Father Cares guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Stuff
known
get his
tactic
name.
that's been done throughout Hollywood with some people. It kind of reminds me of Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, when they were filming the scene with Jason coming through the front window and grabbing Corey Feldman. They didn't tell him about it. They were, they were like, just stay right here and we'll hit action and everything will happen. You just stay right there and hit action and Jason comes through the window and they got a genuine scare out of him.
Yeah. Worked though.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, I'm sure that besides William Friedkin, there's probably been some other directors that have been way over demanding. But when you're talking about hot dollars that are, burning up and they're just going to waste, eventually you're going to start becoming a different kind of person with people. You're probably going to start being a dickhead with people because, people are coming down on you and then you got to come down on the people you're working with. But that's another reason why I really like William Friedkin as a director. I like pretty much everything he's ever done, man. Like it's just the guy really knows how to make a movie, and unfortunately, he passed away last year. I think he was 80 years old when he passed away.
Yeah. So he lived till he was 80, so he lived like a long life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think when people live that long, it's should consider yourself lucky, man. Because a lot of people don't even like make it past 60 sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, my number three would have to be Alien. Fucking 79.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Love this movie. Yeah, even this movie kind of scared me when I was a little younger as well. I mean, at certain parts, like it's great how they create like the claustrophobic vibe to it, and just I don't know. I love
Yeah.
seeing the alien when you don't see it a whole lot, but it just like the chest bursting scene too. Like that was fucking great, and the face hugger scene that always freaked me right out. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Riley
the
Scott's
fact that
great.
the movie takes
In
place on a little spaceship, so you're in
it.
confined areas, and you got this thing running around in the ship, and you have no idea where it's at, what's going on, And like even when you see the captain with Tom Skerritt, he's the only one really like holding himself together mentally. And you see the
Right.
rest of the crew is kind of panicking and everything, besides like Sigourney Weaver. But there's times when I watch the movie, like like I almost feel like I can't breathe because I'm stuck and I'm like confined in this little area on this ship. Yeah, I'm not physically there, but it's just like it really adds to the claustrophobicness of it. And when Dallas gets knocked off when he dies, and he's in that confined area and he's got the sensor trying to figure out where the thing's at. He's got the flamethrower gun or whatever it is, and then you get that quick glimpse of the alien, and you get nothing but distortion noise.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
probably one of the best scenes in it, besides the chest bursting scene. And also when we find out that Ash is a fucking robot,
Yeah. And
that is like, what
Parker,
the fuck, dude?
uh,
Like, I had
like,
no idea this dude was a robot. Like, that's like, I really think that's like one of the best things about the film too. The plot twist with that.
yeah. And there's great jump scares. Yeah. And how you were saying about Ash, find out he's like an android robot. Like when Parker like knocks his fucking head off with that lead pipe, and it's like all this
Yeah.
milk shit going everywhere. You weren't expecting that to happen or
Nah, I
something.
didn't
That
see
was
that at
great.
all, man. And it's funny because when I was a kid and I first saw Aliens,
Yeah.
I was so young that I really wasn't like able to comprehend the story that was going on in it. So I didn't know Lance Hendrickson was a robot. And we get up to that final scene when it looks like they got away, and and they saved Newt and fucking Ripley. And then out of nowhere, fucking, Bishop takes a xenomorph tail right through his chest, and it lifts him up in the air and rips him in half, and all this white shit came out. So I was like, I guess that's milk coming out of it. Like, I had no idea what to think about that. So it's like the first time I ever saw somebody get disemboweled like that in a movie too at a young age. It just really fucked with me really bad. But that's what really like opened me up to all those Alien films. And, a few years later we would get Alien 3. It just such great sci-fi movies, man. It's you can't get through the 70s without mentioning the original Alien from '79. It's really another one that paved the way for the '80s.
Oh, for sure. Fuck.
What are you on, number 4?
Yeah, the spider walk in The Exorcist is scary. Yeah, but that came out
Well,
what? That footage came out like in 2000, I think, when they re-released it in the theater. I remember going
yeah.
to see it in the theater. But
Yeah, I
before
went and
then,
saw it
they
too.
never
It came
had
out
that.
in 2001. They re-released the director's cut in the theater.
Yeah.
And I remember me and a couple of friends went, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go see The Exorcist." I've seen it before. It's not scary like that. And then I get in the theater, and the lights go down, and I hear the violin go, and I was just like, "Oh shit!
I
All
know,
right,
right?
maybe it's a little more scary than I thought." But I don't really like. I'm not. I don't know the spider walk. I guess it's cool, but I don't know. I don't think it really adds much to the movie, really. It's especially because it's such a bizarre thing. You got a body that's contorted in positions where it's just not normally doing something. I wish they would have did more with that instead of just having her run down the steps. It's kind of just this 3-second thing that happens.
It would
So
have been
I mean,
cool to see her like crawling on the wall or something, and then like drop down to the stairs and do it or something like that, or some other
yeah, or
crazy
maybe
shit.
even do like a 180 flip and then attack the priest or something. Like I don't know, just
Yeah.
I just wish they did a little more with that, so it would have like some kind of relevance. It's just like, okay, meanwhile Reagan's fucking doing this. It's just like, okay. Then a little bit of blood comes out of her mouth. Like I don't get that, but yeah, it's like I know when I first saw it, I was like, all right, I guess that's pretty cool. But like over the years of watching it, I'm like, it doesn't really have much reason to be there. It just happens real quick, and that's it. But it's
Yeah.
still a very iconic scene, though. I understand that. So what do we just passed number 3 now, right?
Yeah, number 4 now.
Number 4. All right, I'm gonna go with something here that's probably a little outside of something you would see regularly here, but this is one of the first films that I discovered from this director. This is an Italian horror director here. It's mostly known for horror films and giallos, but
Mm.
and I think this movie does rely more on its soundtrack and its atmosphere, really. It's, I guess you could label this as a supernatural giallo film, but this would be coming in at number four, the 1977 film Dario Argento's Suspiria.
I kind of figured once you said the soundtrack and you were talking about Giallo, I was like, I bet sure
Yeah,
it's Superior. Yeah, I was gonna
well,
put it on my list, but it didn't make it. But
yeah,
yeah,
like, I
man,
feel like
it's
this is
great.
another movie. It's kind of popular with people to be like, ah, it's not really a good movie. Like,
It
okay, to
is.
each their own, I guess, but
It
like,
is.
I mean,
I
I
love
know
it.
the remake seems like it has its place. I'm kind of conflicted with the remake. I've watched it two times now, but when I watch it, I find elements that are cool, and then other things that are just like, why is that going on? And also, the runtime is way too fucking long.
I
There's no
find
real
it is.
atmosphere to it, and all like the color of the film, it just looks really drab and dull throughout
It
it. But
does. Yeah,
like,
I
and then
never
also the
liked
end of
it, to
that
be honest.
movie's like the end of it's like, can someone explain to me what the fuck is going on right now? It's just women dancing with blood all over them, and it's just I don't know. It's fucking far out. It's but I mean, I can't pinpoint exactly the first Dario Argento film that I actually saw. It might have been Suspiria, but I just know the first time I saw this film, and you get scenes where obviously there's events of supernatural things going on. This is generally a
Mhm.
movie about witches, even though we don't
It
really
is.
get to see these witches in full witch form really in this movie. This
Wait
is
till
more
the
about like
very
a
end.
psychological thing throughout this movie. You have to really use your head in this movie to kind of
Yeah.
figure out the ins and outs with it. But one thing I did like about the remake that I kind of wish Dario would have did in the remake, we get to see the house within the house, which is like random doors that would open up to be like, you walk into a room and it's really just the backside of a fucking hallway or a bedroom. And
Mm.
the hidden house within the house is where the real witches are at. And we don't get that in the original Suspiria, but we do get that in the remake. So that's like one thing I kind of wish Dario would have like maybe focused on a little bit there,
It's
but
a good
the way
point.
this movie opens up, man, it's just you got a loud punching score from that band Goblin. It's just a loud punching score,
It
and it's
is.
raining outside, and everything that leads up to
Exactly.
this girl who's trying to tell other girls at the dance academy that there's some shit going on here, and none of you guys are believing me, and then she ends up getting murdered that night. But the way it plays out is she's constantly stabbed over and over again, and one of the witches takes a cord, wraps it around her neck, throws her through the fucking beautiful glass skylight window, and then she falls through it, and then ultimately gets hanged to her death. But just the way that scene plays out, man, it's just like really something that it just pretty much just like embedded in me. It was just like, wow, like I'm in for a fucking good time with this movie. But this is also another film I like to watch around the Halloween season every year.
Yeah,
I don't
man,
feel
it's
like there
great
isn't many
atmosphere.
good witch themed movies out there. There's a few good ones, but like, and when you want to go back to the 70's and 80's, I feel like there's not a whole lot of good witch themed movies, really. But
There
I think
isn't, to be
Suspiria is a
honest.
really good one.
It is. It's probably my favorite, like, witch theme one for sure. Yeah, I love the colors they use and the color panels they use in that fucking movie, man. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, the color palettes and the filters throughout it. Like, there's a lot of like
Everything.
reds, violets, purples, and blues and stuff like that. But that's another thing with Dario Argento. He is heavily inspired by Mario Bava. That was somebody he looked up to as a filmmaker. He was like a mentor. And like once Mario Bava passed away sometime in like the early 80's. Dario already had some movies put out there, but you could see where he gets his style from, and it's inspired a lot from working with Mario Bava over the years. And when I discovered Dario Argento, I knew who Mario Bava was. I just didn't really know of his work that much, and I wasn't really familiar with his movies. So once I started, going and watching Mario Bava films, I can see all the influences that Argento has. When I watch his movies, I'm just like, wow, I can see the similarities here from like when you watch a movie like the Mario Bava's got a giallo called Blood and Black Lace. When you watch that movie, there's a lot of color palette filters throughout it, and it's
Okay.
just very reminiscent with Suspiria.
Hmm. That's cool, man. So, so my number four would have to be I'm, I'm going with Exorcist for sure. That's my number four. Man, like this movie still fucking scares the shit out of me today. Like so many creepy ass scenes in this movie. Like just even that face of pizzazz who's showing up on your screen. Like oh man. Even like at the first movie, like you were saying with the violins, like just ragging herself and like her voice and just man that scene when Reagan's mom goes up to her room and everything's fucking like spit around the room there, and then she's masturbating with the crucifix. It's just like, what the fuck? And then her voice completely changes while her head turns around too. You know what, your cunting daughter? Like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck, man.
Scenes like that make me wonder what scenes they wanted to do, and they probably didn't follow
Yeah,
through with, either because of the execution or maybe it might have been too vulgar. I just, like, I just can only, like, just imagine, like, what other ideas they really tried to do and they just didn't follow through with.
yeah, it would be interesting to know for sure.
But I just know, The Exorcist is just such an undeniable movie, man. It's the theme music does it. If you're a fan of cinema, you hear that theme music, you should be able to know what it is like right away. But
The tubular bells, that one. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But but yeah, you can't get that's another one. It's hard to get through the 70s and overlook a movie like The Exorcist. No,
yeah,
it's definitely a big movie for me, and it's another reason
it
why I
is.
think I was so disappointed with Believer. The main actor that you have in it, that black guy. He does a fairly good job. It's just everything surrounding him is just like you can see it's a challenge for him to work with, and like none of the supporting actors are actually supporting him throughout the movie. You kind of notice that as it goes along, and just some silly things. Even when that priest finally gets his shit together and stops being a pussy out in the car out front of the house, he comes inside and gets his neck, gets his neck snapped and his head turns all the way around. Dude, I was laughing my ass off, and it wasn't in a good way. I was laughing because it was so fucking bad.
Yeah, I mean, they just got the wrong people directing it and writing it. It was just a shit show to begin with.
Yeah, and then the way they handled what's her name, the mother.
Yeah,
They
Ellen
stab her eyes
McPherson.
out. It's just like, wow, that is just despicable. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
it was just mostly fan service or like I don't know. I get
Yeah.
a lot with Blumhouse. I find with them and David Gordon Green.
And I know
So
like Linda Blair pops up at the end of the movie, which is like
yeah,
kind of pointless.
I
But
know.
they told her as they were making the movie, like, we have a part for you for this movie, and she was like, well, I appreciate it, but I have no time for it. So apparently, like she does a lot of work with animals and stuff, like dogs, cats, stuff like that, like
Okay.
rescuing animals. But she's like, my schedule is so busy with animals, like I don't even have time to make a movie. This is why I'm not in movies anymore. I got other priorities going on. But it looks like they found some time to film about 30 seconds for her to be at the end of the movie there. So, but what are we on number 5 here, right?
Yeah,
All right. I don't think I picked out a 5 one here. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second.
I'll just get to some of your guys' number fours there. I would like go through. I am going through you guys' comments as we go along, but if I read them, we'll be here for a while. 5 is Zodiacs. Number 5 is Omen, with honorable mention to Alien for the 70s. Nice. Tenebrae is fucking great. It is fucking great. It almost made my list, but I was like, no. I haven't seen much Italian horror. Some of it's pretty good, Rosalia. Forgot Tenebrae. Yeah, that was great. John Saxon. Yeah, he's in it. Your number 5 is Jaws. Ashton's number 5, Ashton's number 5 is Carrie, with an honorable mention of The Omen. Gooch Zuzu.
Gooch goo. Gooch goo.
Gooch Zuzu.
Gooch goo. Gooch goo.
Number 5 is Brooks. The Exorcist is Brooks, number 5. It was my first cake party, Bobby.
Like, this does make it a little bit easier to pick 5 movies in one decade, but it's still like I just picked one out now, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta leave that off. I gotta leave that off the list.
Oh no, man! Like the 70s and the 80s were the hardest.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Texas said, you want real Italian horror? Burn your pizza. It's definitely scary. Burn some Ilio's pizza. There you go. All right, I got my number 5 here. I came close to picking The Wicker Man. I love that fucking movie, but that's another one I had to leave off the list. I'm gonna leave Alien off the list. I'm gonna just probably leave that as an honorable mention. You got to mention this movie at some point. We just did though, but this one wasn't picked. It's really up there as one of my favorite zombie films, and yeah, this is George A. Romero's 1978 film, Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's such an awesome movie.
It's really another one of those movies where, like, we have multiple cuts for it. You get a theatrical, international, a director's cut, and I think there's a European cut that was, because I know Argento had a part in this as like a producer. I think he like paid his way into it, so like they ended up getting their European cut or whatever. But I can watch all cuts of this movie and be satisfied, really. Like, it's another one that's really just an easy watch. Before I know it, the credits are about ready to come up. And I've actually had the opportunity to see the full director's cut on the big screen before. I was at a 24-hour event screening where they don't announce any of the movies. They screen about 13 or 14 movies in 24 hours. They're all retro classic horror films. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I see, the opening shot just comes on the screen. I'm like, oh, great, it's Dawn of the Dead. But about 15 minutes into the movie is when I realized it was a director's cut. I was like, oh, this is the extended director's cut. How did they get their hands on this? Like, it's not just, easy to obtain a 35 millimeter print of the director's cut. But it was really cool to see this movie on the big screen. But I know some people have issues. Like, man, it's like one topic here. I can't understand why people are like, I know people like the remake from 2004. I enjoy it for what it is, but I just think it doesn't even hold a candle to the original movie. But I love when people are like, yeah, but I like the 2004 movie because the effects and the makeup look better. No fucking shit, dude. You're comparing something from 2004 to the 1970s. Like, like that shouldn't even have to be told. Like, you should be able to, realize that with your own eyes and move on. But I mean, at the same time, like, I think the zombies look pretty good. I think their acting is better than what they look like on screen, really. I know, like, some of them in certain scenes in a certain light, you kind of get like this bluish green tint on the skin.
They do, yeah.
Which I think makes sense, like when people die, not every single person looks exactly the same. Some people still have color in their face. Some people look blue or yellow or purple, whatever the fuck. But But I think how a movie like this, up until this point in 1978, we've had some zombie films, but we never had one this big and also take place in a shopping mall the way this
Right.
does.
It's
And
badass.
apparently, the crew, like,
Yeah,
this was
exciting.
like, I think this was supposed to be like one of the first shopping malls. And when they were opening the mall, it was like already open for business and everything apparently, but it wasn't like fully open. Like some areas were still like getting stores and stuff. So they would film in the middle of the night. They would film from like midnight till about 5 in the morning. And they would be trashing the mall, but the rule was once you guys are done, you have to clean all this shit up, and we got to be ready by 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So like, seeing like a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff, like actually I had this box set here, which is like everything you need for this movie. Look how thick this box set is.
Jesus.
Like
Yeah,
it's like
wow.
an
That's
8 disc
awesome.
set. Like this comes off the top here. And yeah, this comes off. You get two books in here. You get a hardback, a paperback, like 7 disc set, everything you need. But I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
a set
awesome.
like this is kind of hard to get your hands on anymore. But also, a set like this will really make you appreciate a movie like this.
Oh, for sure.
But
Those,
overall, to me, I think it's just one of the ultimate zombie films. I love all the zombie films that Romero gave us. Like, I even enjoy Land of the Dead on a certain level. Survival of
yeah,
the
I
Dead,
do
watchable,
sometimes.
just not a great movie. Diary of the Dead, I think is watchable, just not a great movie. But I think with what Romero gave us, with the original three, with Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead, those are just impeccable movies, man. But it's just it's a shame that a lot of the younger generations they can't get into this movie. They just can't. But I guess it's probably could argue it's another product of its time, really, and it does show on screen with its effects and everything. But like Tom Savini, this is
Yeah,
like I think one of the first times where he had to
first
work,
movies.
and like we had to work with a mass amount of zombies and so much makeup, and actually had to bring other people in to help him and stuff because he was just so overworked that he can't handle everything on his own, and at the same time he's acting in the movie too, so a lot of work from Savini in this movie. Really, like I think a lot of credit really goes to him.
Yeah, he even plays in it too.
Yeah, he's like one of the biker gang
Yeah.
dudes or whatever, and I think it's good that he is in the movie, especially because like the one scene when he chops the zombie in the head with the machete, and like he pulls it back out. It's I think it's better to the guy who's doing the effect should be actually doing
Doing
following
the
through with
effect.
it
Yeah. Just to
because he
see.
understands it, and also I know there was a lot of first times for Savini on this movie too. There was a lot of like, like, okay, I'm working in a certain field here where I've never actually experimented with and done things before. But I don't know if you realize or not, but Tom Savini, he was actually a photographer in Vietnam.
Yeah, he
He would
was.
take
Yeah.
pictures of certain things. And after a while, he was getting a lot of pictures of dead bodies. And he would start seeing so many dead bodies that he knew what a dead body looked like. So he knew how to applicate that on a real human being to make people look dead. But yeah, there's no way I can get through the 70s without mentioning this one, man.
Oh, I
It's
know. That's
undeniable, impeccable movie. It's something that'll never get old for me.
same here. That's my honorable mention, but my number five would be a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sure.
Yeah.
Fucking- Like that whole movie, like it's the realism of it. It feels like real, like you know what I mean. It feels like it's a documentary. Like people went out and like filming this documentary style, and they come upon this house, and it just feels real to me. And I love the grittiness to it. Like
Yeah, it's
and
like
you can see like
even
the
the look of the
terror
print.
and the final girls. What's her name? Shelly, is it? Is Shelly beside
Yeah,
me?
yeah. I think that's her name. Yeah, yeah. And it's Marilyn Burns is the actress.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, she put on a good performance. Like it just, oh man.
No, her name's Sally. That's
Oh,
it.
Sally. Yeah, sorry, Sally. Yeah, now I remember Franklin going.
You
and
Sally! Just
yeah,
bitching the whole time.
yeah,
But I
blowing
really
his
love
raspberry.
in the opening in the film, when they're talking about everybody, and it's like he says Sally and her invalid brother. Like it's just the fact that like damn, you're calling him invalid. Like I understand like back then that term was used a little differently, but when you look at it
Yeah,
today and you put the word invalid in front of someone's name, it's like fuck you. Like it really is. But it's the grittiness of the movie. I think stands out to a point where it can really distract you from the fact that you're not seeing blood and guts, but you're getting the vibe of that.
yeah,
Especially when
yeah,
you go into the house and you see all the bones and the animal skins and
right.
all this stuff. It's not
Really
graphic, but it makes
off-putting.
you feel dirty. Like even
It
when the
does.
girl falls down on the floor and she like her face basically goes into a bunch of chicken feathers. I
Yeah.
can feel those chicken feathers in the back of my throat. I feel like when she falls down, I feel like she inhales and one goes into her mouth. Like that's just the feeling I get from that. But
Like just even being put like watching her being put on the hook, you don't see it go through or anything, but you just see her like being put on it, like you know what I mean? And then
yeah,
the girl in the freezer, like that was great. And yeah, like how you said, like I fucking forget some of their names, but that other guy where he gets thrown down and Leatherface has got the chainsaw and you like he's going at him, but you don't see anything. Like you were saying, there's no blood in the movie, like barely. But you just could only imagine like he's just being cut to pieces with the chainsaw. Same with Franklin.
yeah, because
Like
like we
you
don't
know what
get
I
to
mean?
see it on screen, but what is supposed to be interpreted is Franklin gets both of his arms cut off, and then he takes the chainsaw and buries it into his chest.
Yeah,
Because you do see, like as he strikes on him, you get a flash of the flashlight. Then when he strikes the other arm, that's when the flashlight falls to the ground. It's supposed to be representing the arm coming off, even though we don't see it on the screen. And then
right.
you get that last shot of Leatherface taking the chainsaw and going forward with it. Therefore, it's supposed to be going into the torso area. But it just, like even like before all the events really take off, like even that one weirdo guy at the gas station who likes staring at the sun all
Yeah.
day, like it's like who the fuck is that guy? What's he up to? Why is his head all deformed and shit? Like I don't know if you noticed, but like his head's like really big in certain areas. But like we don't get to see that guy again. I don't know what happened there with
No.
that.
Just
But
even
yeah,
like the start of the
just a
film, like
horrifying movie, man. Really, just like holy shit. And then, the actress Marilyn Burns, who's playing Sally, she sells it so well.
she does.
It's her screaming and
Absolutely.
yelling is like, "Fuck, dude, I'm about to call 911." Like, even though I'm watching a movie.
Just even like the first of the movie, like the open credits, like you see the graveyard and well, just those bodies, like those click images of those pictures,
Yeah,
and then you hear that news report on the radio, like that
yeah,
was
about the
like
grave robbings and all that
yeah,
shit.
it's
Now, I
fucking
think in
cool.
the opening credits, I think that's supposed to be meat at the barbecue. I'm not exactly sure because you see a
Mhm.
lot of red and black and then the
Yeah.
yellowish kind of lettering with the words. But I
Hmm.
think that's supposed to be the meat that's being cooked at the barbecue.
I mean, yeah, I
I
mean, it
could
does
be
make
wrong
sense.
about that, but I think that's what that is. Because you can't
Yeah,
really
you could
make
be
out
right.
really what it is. It's just a bunch of black and red. It's like almost like inverted color, really. But I think it's just the meat that we don't get to see that's cooked in the barbecue.
Yeah, and then
And
you
also,
see the graveyard, that burnt like guy on the grave, or was it on the grave? Yeah,
yeah, he dug up the body and then he wired it to the tombstone. But like
right.
it's funny seeing this in 4K now. Like when you see this movie in 4K, like
Mm.
it's you kind of see like a bit of the grain kind of like washed out of it, which is like,
Oh, really?
I prefer to
He
see
kind
this
of
movie
takes
as
it out
grimy as
in a way.
possible. Like
Damn.
this is one movie where I don't want clarity. I want this to be
No,
like, I want this
the
to be
way it
dipped in
is, the way it
shit.
was filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like the one thing I think it was pretty cool when I first saw the 4K of this is that scene when he wires up the dead body on the tombstone, but you could see all the heat resonating off of the body. It's
Hmm.
steaming up, and just
Wow,
imagine 100-degree weather in the middle of August in Texas
that would
with
fucking
this
stink.
decomposing body, and it's just steam coming off of it from whatever fumes that are just leaving the body. It's just like fuck. Even that makes me just want to take a just that scene makes me want to take a shower.
Yeah, just even like them filming that movie was hell. They said like all the dead fucking animal like carcasses and shit with the heat, and it would stink so bad, and they couldn't wash their
Yeah,
clothes because they wanted the continuity to keep going with the film. I don't even
yeah,
think they were able to wash the clothes. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, that would suck, man. Like being in a house the whole time where it stinks with the animal like carcasses. Like,
yeah.
ooh,
Like the funny thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre is Toby Hooper thought that when people saw the movie, they were gonna laugh. He really thought that people were gonna be like seeing this as a comedy, and he got the opposite effect from it, and was like, "Shit, like okay, like no one thought it
oh,
was funny.
absolutely.
Everybody's terrified of it, you know." Like even I like there's times I watch the movie and I try to think about that, and I'm just like, what was Hooper thinking when this is gonna be comedic? Because there's a couple things you can laugh at, but on a serious level, there's nothing funny here. Like it's just not a funny movie. But that's another reason why he was influenced to make the second movie the way he did, with how zany and far out it is with the Chop Top character, and it is more horror comedy, and you could
Yeah.
say nonsense most of the time. But that's why I enjoy part two. Like it provides a little bit of everything really with part two. I can understand why some people don't like the second movie, but I enjoy it for what it is.
I do too. I think it's great. Yeah.
But I really think that Hooper, even though I like the movie, I really think Hooper should have tried to, continue what he did with the first movie, at least the tone of it, with how serious it was. I think he should have tried to follow up with that. Because I think when he came out with part two, that kind of put the franchise to rest right after that. Because everything that came after it
Well,
just
shit.
really wasn't like relatable to what came before it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's
It's
true.
That's a real tough franchise.
Yeah. So moving on with the 80s now.
Uh, yeah, we are through the 1970s there.
They're all great horror films, most of them. Yeah, I love a lot of them. Um,
All right.
I'll just do my number one for 1980, and that's Halloween 2. Like, man, like I always go back and forth. When I was younger, well, I guess I was kind of like Halloween 2 more than the first one when I was younger. And then as I got older, I started liking the first one like more. But yeah, it was always kind of back and forth with me with the first and second one, which one I liked more. But yeah, for the 80s, my number one's definitely Halloween 2.
All right, so that's your number one there. It's yeah, Halloween. I like Halloween too. I like how the score is a bit different. It kind of
Yeah, I
has like
love
a
the
like
score.
a horror sounding organ in the background too. It
Yeah.
just has like a high pitched kind of sound to it too. Like you really feel those piano keys in your head. But just the way it continues, and like it's at times it could be funny with Dr. Loomis screaming and yelling like I shot him 6 times. He's not a man. And just just right. And like every time I see that scene, I'm just like, if I was a cop, I'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like chill the fuck out. But the way it starts out like that, and he's like in the alleyways, he's lurking. Like we don't really get to see him lurking on neighbors and stuff like he did in the
No,
first movie. So I think
which
that's
I
what
kind of
really
wish they
adds to that.
focus
And
more
then
on.
like yeah, and then the one girl's getting the news over the radio, and she's on the phone with the one friend, and out of nowhere, she hears the door slam. It turns out he's actually in the house and shit. But like, I think part two really nails the atmosphere. I know once we get to the hospital, it kind of loses something there. It does lose a bit
It
there, I
does.
think. But I still
A
enjoy the
little bit.
movie.
I still find it like I find when yeah, I know what you mean. But like I find once Michael, like after the bath or hot tub scene, I find that's when it starts like really starting to pick up for me, and like it does. I don't know. It does for me. Like I do know what you mean. Like a little bit of the hospital does kind of throw it off a little bit, but I don't know. That's just
It
me
doesn't
though.
like ruin the movie or anything. I just feel like it
No.
kind of takes a step down from what we were getting. Because like whenever I'm watching it now and I see Michael walking up that street and you see the Haddonfield Hospital sign, that's when I'm like, all right, the best is over. I just kind of get that reminder, like, all right, the best of this movie's over now. But I still like
Uh,
the film for what it is, man. It's even that final scene, that explosion, and Michael
mm,
comes out of those fucking flames. The first time I saw that, I was
uh,
like, "What's it gonna take to kill him?" Like, but then he falls down, and he finally dies. But first time I saw him coming out of those flames, that scared the shit out of me, dude.
really? Yeah. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Like you can see it's a guy in a fire suit, but
Yeah, you
back
could
in those
tell.
days they
Yeah.
didn't have all those enhanced effects and all that stuff. But he came out of that fire. I was like, holy fuck, dude!
He's gulped in
This
fucking
dude
flames.
is talk about relentless. That dude does not give up, man.
Flamer Tramer.
Yeah,
When Ben
that
Tramer
trainer does
gets
go up in
nailed up
flames.
against the TV reporting van,
Maybe that's what
explodes.
they should have did with the sequels. Maybe they should have put fucking Dr. Loomis in prison for killing Ben Tramer. But nah, that's okay. We give Dr. Loomis another gun and let him run around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on the 80s now at number one, right?
Yeah.
All right, so in a way, this might be for me. Like I think my number one was kind of easy. This is just like a Grail movie for me, to where it's an annual watch every year, that's for sure. And it's such a big movie for me, and it's really why I enjoy horror anthologies. And Stephen King's Creep Show is my number one 80s film right there.
Fuck yeah, I
Absolutely
love that
adore this
movie.
movie. It's one of the first horror anthologies I really discovered. And
Mm.
the first time I watched it, it just really made me enjoy the fact that I can really get into a movie with quick stories that are actually good, and they blend in well. You get five really good stories in this. I know the last one's probably not favored by a lot of people, but I
Oh
really
fuck
enjoy
no.
it. I think E.G. Marshall as the old demented asshole old guy in that, he does a really good job with that. And I know some people are turned off by it because it's cockroaches. Like it just,
Yeah.
you're
I
watching a movie. They're not really
fuck.
on you. Relax. Like it's not that bad. Like, but I just think this is a damn near flawless movie. I think it's the holy grail of horror anthologies, really. And I think
It
it's really
really is.
responsible for why we
One sec.
saw certain horror anthologies after this. I think it was, heavily inspired for some filmmakers. And, it ended up producing a sequel, which is actually pretty good in my opinion. I think Creep Show 2 is actually a pretty good movie, but unfortunately, somebody let the franchise and go out into someone else's hands, and we got that abomination of Creep Show 3, which is an absolute piece of shit. But I think the real Creep Show is the Tales from the Dark Side movie, really, because apparently with the Tales from the Dark Side movie, there's a couple stories in that, or one or two stories that was going to be utilized for a Creep Show 3. But once that all fell apart and it wasn't going to happen, they managed to recycle that and use it from Tales from the Dark Side, which is really, Tales from the Dark Side, even the show to the movie, is really not much different from what Creepshow really does. It's really along the same lines. It's just that Tales from the Dark Side isn't really based on the comic book. It's based on a made up book itself. But yeah, it's like even to this day with like modern anthologies, like here's a modern one real quick that nobody ever talks about. This came out in 2021. And I wouldn't say this is a great movie, but it's an anthology. But this is a movie called Two Witches,
Never
which
seen.
is it's really just based on two stories, but decent film for what it is. Could have been better. It could have been better probably, but I enjoyed it for what it is. So especially for a modern one, but without movies like Creepshow, I wouldn't be motivated to check out an anthology like that. But actually, here's a good anthology I think that came out recently. I think, and this is from Shudder. I think this came out in 2019, and you actually have Clancy Brown in this movie, which is undeniably great as an actor. And this is the Mortuary Collection. So yeah, if you guys are if you're a fan of horror anthologies and you haven't seen the Mortuary Collection yet, I would highly recommend seeing this one. It is a Shudder original, but I think this is pretty good and fairly original too. Like the stories don't feel like they've been taken from anything or ripped off in any way. But I thought this was a pretty good crafted horror anthology, especially for a modern one. But I just love that concept that you can get multiple stories with an anthology like that, and yeah. So that's easily. There's no way I can get through the '80s without mentioning Creepshow, and it usually would come in at number one on all topics of the '80s, really. So
Yeah, man, it's great. It definitely made my list.
but yeah, I don't know if you've seen this though, P. The Mortuary Collection.
No, never
It's
have
a
now.
it's a Shudder movie, but I would recommend seeing this, dude. It was surprisingly good, and you have Clancy Brown, who's been in movies like Shawshank Redemption,
Yeah.
Highlander. Like he's got a very extensive filmography as an actor, but he actually plays like the creepy guy in it, who's like telling the stories and shit.
Cool. Yeah, I'll check it out.
I was really surprised by that. Like I watched it out of sheer boredom one night. I was like, all right, what's up with this anthology on Shudder here? I was, let's give it a go, and I was like, wow, this is actually not bad. Oh, they're making another Smile movie? Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
the first one was
Smile too.
forgettable, man. Like, what the fuck?
I know,
Yeah, I
right?
couldn't do that first one. The first one was just really.
So, yeah, my number two is Friday 13th Part 4, the final chapter.
Okay. Fine. Yeah, that's another good one there. That's the only Friday movie I've seen on the big screen, actually.
Was it? Yeah, that'd be
Yeah, that's another
awesome.
one I saw at a 24-hour event.
Oh, sweet.
But
Yeah,
we're talking about the '80s and horror. I think you gotta acknowledge the best slasher franchise of the '80s with Friday the 13th.
yeah, it was one of my favorite slasher movies of all time, for sure.
All right, so we're passing number one right now through the '80s. All right, number two would be right. All right, so we're on number two, and I don't think I've mentioned a John Carpenter movie yet. I know we have, but I don't think I have. But yeah, I think a lot of people are a fan of this movie. It's another one that I can't get through the '80s without mentioning this one. And coming in at number two is definitely John Carpenter's The Thing.
Nice. That's
Another
on
one
my
that
list
relies
too.
heavily on atmosphere, and especially for a movie that takes place in the snow. Like I know most of this movie was filmed in Alaska, something like that. It's supposed to take place in Antarctica. There's no way you can physically get all that equipment down there to go film on location. But
You
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 know,
wouldn't be
just the
allowed to,
fact that you have
anyways.
these like the story's so good, man. It's these you have all these scientists that are at this location in Antarctica. They're discovering things and testing things or whatever, and they come across a life form that they can't even comprehend on, like, its origins and why it exists and why it does what it does. And to have something that could replicate you, something physical and living that could replicate your own physical being is like, whoa, oh God, that is just very thought provoking and terrifying, and it's in itself, really. But Kurt Russell, I think, in the leading role really does sell the movie too, man. Like,
Oh hell
there's
yeah.
just times when you could see that, like, everybody's thinking that, McCready is the one he's the thing, and it's why he's doing what he's doing. Like, you could see the fear in him, even when he's holding the flamethrower with the dynamite. His hands are shaking. Like, just his performance in that movie is just really well done, and it's another one. It's definitely an annual watch. When the weather outside gets really cold or it's snowing outside, it's a movie I might sit down and watch. But
Mm,
you know, oddly
that's
enough,
good.
this really isn't a movie I'll watch around the Halloween season. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just never think to put the thing on during Halloween season. It's just a movie I like to settle on throughout the winter. I'm like that
Yeah,
sometimes. I walk outside and whatever the weather is that day will probably predict on what I'm going to watch that night.
that's a great one. Fucking right. So
But yeah, there's definitely no way I can get through the '80s without mentioning the thing, man.
I know,
It's
right?
such a timeless movie at this point. It's like I even think this is a movie that's like it's being received by the younger generations well. It's really a movie I think that's going to last.
Oh, it will. I think it will.
Like, it's really hard to, say if like movies from like the 30s and the 40s are really going to be around and relevant in like 30 years from now. I'm going to say probably
I
not,
doubt it.
unless you got to be like a real cinephile or something like that. But
Right.
I forgot. I remember seeing that movie Bed Knobs and Broomsticks when I was a kid, but Russ or Texas just said Bed Knobs and Broom Queefs. Fuck.
Yeah, so yeah, we're on number three, right? Number three for me is
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
Yeah.
Like, like,
Yeah, so
oh
even the
man,
baby's like, "Ah!"
like the scene with Tina's death, man. That's like one of the best like kills I think in horror.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
like,
actually a very epic scene, man. First time I ever saw that, I couldn't even comprehend how they even executed that scene.
all right, just like Robert England, and he's like, "This is God." And he cuts off his fingers like this. Fucking awesome. That whole scene is like freaky as fuck. Especially when I was a kid the first time I watched it. And like the bathroom scene with Nancy, like that's so fucking iconic. Like damn. And Glenn's death itself, like when he gets sucked in his bed and all the blood's like spewing up. Like yeah, that's my favorite Wes Craven movie for sure, man. It's gotta be.
It's still like the original Elm Street is still my favorite of the franchise. I can't say if it's my favorite Craven film. It probably is, but
Mm.
I would have to be looking at his whole filmography to really decide on that. But I see a lot of people don't really like the original one that much. A lot of people land on like Dream Warriors or
Not
some other
me.
shitty sequel or something, but it just seems like the original Elm Street doesn't get the appreciation that it really deserves. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Dream Warriors is a great sequel, but when you throw that up against Freddy and the original one, night and day is the difference there. But it's another thing. Like, another issue I really have with the Elm Street franchise is they turned Freddy into a goofball way too early. By the fourth movie, he's already this
I
fucking
know.
goofball dickhead. Like, come on, man, this ain't scary at all.
No, fuck no. It's just laughable.
Yeah,
MTV Freddy. That's all.
like I know, like the one-liners in like Dream Warriors, like welcome to prime time, bitch. Like, some of those are kind of relevant, but when you watch
Yeah.
stuff from like
There's-
Freddy's Dead and on. Those one-liners are corny as fuck, and they
Oh,
don't
you're
hold
fucking
up at
right there.
all.
You're fucking right there. They're brutal. Like the fifth one and the sixth one. Oh, they're brutal. I'm
Yeah,
glad like
we did
Wes
a
Craven
watch
kind of
along.
saved Freddy and New Nightmare. He kind of saved him in a way. If you think about it, like think about if they kept going with like after six or whatnot. Like you know what I mean? Like I
I
think
mean,
Wes
if they would
Craven
have kept
kind of
him
saved them in New
sinister,
Nightmare.
if they would have kept Freddy sinister and serious, you probably could have had at least 5 solid movies.
Oh,
But
for
nah,
sure.
we got the fucking bullshit that we have with that franchise. But we just recently did a watch party for The Dream Child, and
Yeah.
I'd say like 80% of watching that movie again just had question marks in my head. Like, what the fuck is going on here? But what's that, number 3?
The ending of the first one is terrible. I do agree with you on that one. That's the only thing about the movie I don't like is just that ending. Like,
You know what's funny that to mention that? Just this is just my point of view, but I think it really took some time for Wes Craven to learn how to end a movie properly. Because when you look
mm,
at the end of Last House on the Left, or if you look at the end of The Hills Have Eyes, they don't end very well. They don't have strong endings to them, which is another
yeah,
reason why I don't hold Wes Craven as a top tier director. I just don't. When I look at his filmography and Swamp Thing is coming in at number 4 or 3, you don't have a lot of good films, bro. You just don't. Like
that is
I like,
true in some ways. I do
there
give
is
you that. Yeah,
like I mean I don't want to like totally discredit the guy. I like him as a director, but there's times I look at his filmography and I'm just
it's
like,
true.
man, people praise this guy, and you look at that filmography, it's not that good.
Yeah, he
But
had some a
people
few
love
good
Wes
ones
Craven,
for
man.
sure,
They
but
do.
he's definitely yeah. I would have to agree with you on that one. He does not have like a lot of good movies. Like he does got a few of them for sure, but yeah, like I can think
But
of a few better directors for sure right now.
it's one thing I noticed, like with his earlier films, it took Wes Craven some time to learn how to come up with a strong ending for movies. And I know that's challenging when you're working with different scripts, different things as movies go along. Not everything's always going to turn out the way you want it to, but for it's like at least 3 or 4 movies and early in his career was like, all right, it's obvious that you know what you're doing, but you just don't know how to end a movie. But he
Mm.
learned from that over the years and, started to figure that out. But I just sometimes it really blows my mind that people are like, Wes Craven's my favorite director all the time. Like, okay, sorry to hear that.
Sam Raimi, Sebastian said he likes Sam Raimi more than Wes Craven. Yeah, I could. I mean, Sam Raimi's great for sure, man. I was gonna put Evil Dead 2 on there, but that's and Evil Dead the first one, but I don't know, man. Like this was hard for me, so I put them as honorable mentions for sure, man. Both of those movies,
Yeah, I'm still trying to come up with my other pick here right now. Give me a second.
Evil
I
Dead and
gotta do
Evil
this.
Dead 2. Wow.
I gotta do this on the fly here. What are we on, number 3 from the '80s, right? All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah, but gotta give him credit. He pushed the slasher genre forward twice. Yeah, he did. Yeah, we're on 4. Yeah. Um, he did. Yeah, with Freddy and Scream. Yeah. Even though I'm not the biggest Scream fan, but I mean, like the other night when we watched those um Scream movies, well, like the past live streams where we were watching the Scream movies, I did enjoy like well, I always enjoyed the first one, The second one, not so much. Like there was some good things in it that I liked, and then the third one, I enjoyed the third one. I thought it was good. Like on a rewatch, like I haven't seen that in years, and yeah, I like the third one. Second one, not so much for some reason. Like there are some good things in Scream 2, but overall I just don't really like it. Yeah, we're on
Yeah, I
our
don't
number
like it at
four,
all.
Sean.
I don't like Scream 2 at all. Fucking garbage.
Yeah,
But we're on number 3, right?
yeah.
Alright, it's number 3 out of the 80s. Alright. Alright. Actually, I don't think I can show that artwork. Hold on.
Why does it got tits on
Yeah, you'll get fucking
it?
striked for that shit. How can I show this? Alright,
How can I show this?
I don't know how to do this right now. Alright, this will be the best way to do it. So, alright, coming in at number 3 is definitely one that has grown on me. That's for sure. It's something when I first discovered it, I was like, wow, there's a genre for this. Okay. And first saw the movie and was just like, I don't know how to really take this movie in, but seeing this movie in multiple watches throughout the years, there's certain elements and aspects that really just stuck out and started to resonate with me. So this is like a bit of a surpriser that this is making my list. But yeah, coming in at number 3 is the 1980 film Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, damn, yeah. Um, d definitely, I like that movie, but it definitely didn't make my list. Like, that's not a movie I could watch over and over again, but I do like it. Like, you know what I mean?
It's a touchy subject for some people. It's a lot of real graphic killings of animals, but a lot of people don't want to take into consideration that the film crew is out in the jungle. It's not like when they're done filming for the day, there's a hotel around the corner with a lavish fucking restaurant. So all the animals that they killed that you see are killed on screen, that
Yeah,
was their food for the night. That's what they ate. Like,
yeah,
like people think that these
yeah.
animals were just killed for the fun of it and then thrown into the river. Like
No,
no, all these
they,
animals were utilized. And when you're talking about life in the jungle, there's like really only one thing you can do out in the jungle, and it's just fucking figure out how to survive. But I just love the concept in this. It's really like one of the first, I guess you could say, one of the first real found footage movies too.
yeah.
And
Technically,
it's
it
just
is, yeah.
yeah, you got it's basically a story of young filmmakers that hear about this long lost cannibal tribe down in South America. So they decide to go down there to see if everything's real about it. But they end up provoking a tribe into having the tribe hunt them down, and they ultimately become dinner for the cannibals. But I do understand that, the animal killings can be a little bit for some people. I know there is a cut out there that comes with the Blu-ray where you can watch it without the animal killings
Oh, really?
or with it. But in my opinion, you have to watch this movie in full. And it's also important to read the opening scroll. It explains that a movie like this was made in a certain time period,
Mm.
and nothing like this should be condoned or ever made ever again. And it's really a strong. It's. I think that the scroll is really what sets the tone early for the film and what you're going to get. But you
Even the
also got to
music.
understand that this was a movie made in an era where animals didn't have rights back then. There was no animal rights back then. There was nothing to protect, animals that might be on their way out with being extinct. None
It
of
was
that stuff was ever
1980,
set
right?
in place. So all of this was really open to your own interpretation or however you want to really see it. But I still think this is a very important film overall, Cannibal Holocaust. I think it's, if you want to dive into horror films, you're not really familiar with them, I think it's important to check this one out. There's something I feel like you could learn from it, whether you actually like the content that you're watching or not. It really explains a certain era of filmmaking where we didn't have all these rules and things set in place. So you could be open to, killing animals on screen and stuff. And I know at Cannibal Holocaust, there was other Italian filmmakers that were getting into that, like filmmakers like Sergio Martino, Umberto Lenzi. Those were other guys who made like killer cannibal films and stuff. And it really got to a point where it was like, all right, how many more animals can I kill than he did in his last movie, or how much more graphic can I make it? It really became a game of one upping each other in these movies, and I'm not really big on this subgenre. I have about I think I have probably 4 or 5 cannibal films in my collection. The only ones I really enjoy is Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox. I think those are really the only 2 worthy ones to actually watch and, take in and analyze. But yeah, like it's funny though, because like when I first saw that movie, I was like, yeah, it's not bad. It's just not something I would typically watch. And then I went to a movie screening where Cannibal Holocaust was on the bill. So I sat down and watched it and was like, this soundtrack is actually really good. Just like orchestrated, like opera kind of music in a way. But it's just crazy to watch how you're watching all this graphic stuff on screen and you have beautiful music over top of it. You would think that both of those concepts wouldn't work, but it does. It actually works very well. And then another time I went to a movie screening where Cannibal Holocaust was on the bill. I watched it again. And that's when I was like, you know what? Like, I think I like this movie. Like, it took a few watches for it to really resonate with me. But I feel like it's an important one to really mention when you talk about the 80s. It came out in 1980. So, yeah, it's, like a lot of people want to talk about the Blair Witch Project. Oh, one of the first found footage movies. Like, fuck that fucking movie, man. It's fucking Cannibal Holocaust that started that shit, not the Blair Witch Project. But yeah, that would definitely come in at number 3 for me. Like, I probably should have had that a little higher on my list. I probably should have came in at number 5, really, but I feel like it's important for me to mention that one in a top 5 for the 80s.
Yeah. My number 4 is The Thing. We kind of already briefly talked about that one.
Or maybe Spike Lee can come out with his own movie called The Thing.
The
Thing, yo.
That's funny, man.
Got that thing coming out, yo.
Yeah, some of those practical effects, man, they still hold up today. They're fucking sick as fuck.
They're so convincing, dude. The effects are like almost it's almost like, whoa, where did you find that at? It's like, oh, they made that shit, but it's almost like, dude, where did you find that fucked up thing at?
Right.
Like even when the scene when they're trying to revive the one guy and the chest opens up and bites the guy's hands off, and then you get that camera angle from the side of it, and you see all the tentacles and the green shit spitting out. It's like that scene right there is like, what the fuck, dude? And then you get that line from the one guy, I forget his name, and he's like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. It's just that really just says it all right there, man.
Right.
It's like when that's the head, the
turns into like a spider.
Yeah, the decapitated head crawls away from its carcass, and then the spider legs come out of it, and the fucking googly eyes and everything is like, oh my god, dude, this fucking movie. And none of the characters in the movie could ever catch a break. You know, they can't even sit down and like think things out for a minute. It's just constant in your face fucking horror. The thong. The thong. John Carpenter's The Thong. But so all right, so we're through number 3 right now, right? We're on number 4, I think. All right, I gotta go on number. What?
Number 5 now, I think.
Wait, I already did number 4? I thought I did 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did 3
Sorry.
and then you did 3, so we're on 4.
Oh, I just did number 4, the thing. Yeah. So yeah, you do your number 4 now.
All right, we could fix that real quick. Go through your 80s list again. What was that number 1, 2, and 3?
Halloween 2, Friday
Halloween
13th,
2, Friday the 13th.
Part 4, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then The Thing.
Okay, all right. So, all right, I didn't give my number 4 yet. Then that's what that
Right.
is. All right. Give me 1 second.
That's a fucking good one. I was thinking of putting that one on there, but it's definitely Pumpkinhead's definitely a honorable mention for me. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, even though Pumpkinhead came out in '88 at the end there, where it seemed like the horror genre was kind of drying up,
Right.
I still think Pumpkinhead is the greatest creature that we got out of the '80s.
I
It's
agree.
it's an original creature, it doesn't have a real thick story, like a backstory to it to really
No, pretty
kind
easy.
of ruin things, but yeah, we don't get much of like a full origin on it. We just really, we get to see the Haggis witch in it, and she kind of explains how the whole revenge tale takes place with Pumpkinhead and why he's revived in the first place. But
Yeah.
the original Pumpkinhead is undeniably a great movie, man. I guess you could say the formula for it is really nothing special, but it's really all about that Pumpkinhead creature. I think that's what it's Pumpkinhead itself. It's really not the story or the characters. It's really just that creature itself is what makes that movie. But yeah, coming in at number 4 for me, there's no way I can get through the '80s here without mentioning one of the best slasher franchises of all time. And it actually is Steve Miner's birthday today. It's his 73rd birthday today. And coming in at number 4 is Friday the 13th, Part 2.
Cool.
And yeah, Friday the 13th Part 2 is my favorite film in the franchise. For a movie that's not very long, I think this movie is like 86 minutes. The movie is just right to the point, it does harp on, the events of the original story. It does a good job with the campfire tale and everything with Jason Voorhees,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
it's just a lot of genuine creepy moments throughout it. A lot of great executed kills throughout it too. It's really the first time we get to see Jason Voorhees in full effect too. We don't have his mother killing people like the first movie, but I mean, even like the kill. I know the first time when I saw the guy in the wheelchair get hacked in the face with that fucking machete, I was like so young, but I was like, I can't believe they did that to a guy in a wheelchair. It's so fucked up. Like, oh my god. Like, but now when I watch that shit, it's I could just see the beauty of the scene itself. He gets whacked in the face with that machete and goes down the steps. It's a great scene. It really is. I just thought it was so fucked up as a kid. Like, oh, they did that to a guy in a wheelchair. Like, I actually thought the guy in a wheelchair was gonna make it.
Yeah. All right.
But it's also it has a really good showdown with Amy Steele as a final girl too. I think she's pretty good and
Yeah,
how she
she's good.
handles
Yeah.
herself in that movie. I mean, besides the scene of Paul, I think there's somebody in here. But
Used to be white panties.
But yeah, so that's number 4 for me is Friday the 13th Part 2. It's another one. I can't get through the '80s without mentioning a Friday movie.
I know, right? All right.
So we're
So
moving on to number
5.
5 now, right?
Yeah. I give it to Creep Show. Fucking 1982. I mean, oh man. It's my favorite
Yeah.
like anthology film for sure. Uh, this was a hard one with my number 5. I was going to give it to The Shining, and then as much as I love Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and it's so great. Like Red Rum, like the Blood Elevator, and Jack Nicholson and all that. Like here's Johnny and all that. I love it so much, and there's so much layers to that movie. It's great. But I had to, yeah, give it to Creep Show. Like, just loved like the actors in it are great. Like the stories are great. The crates, like one of my favorite ones. I think Father's Day is my favorite story, but like and the color panels they use throughout it, like the comic book type, like effects to it, looks great. I fucking love that movie. It's always has been like one of my favorite horror films of all time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
Creep
Creep
Show
Show
for me.
does a good job at representing a comic book, with those freak out scenes. They're supposed to be in your face with the crazy color lines like coming out of people's heads and shit,
Yeah.
but that's stuff you would normally see in like old like Tales from the Crypt comics and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think out of all the stories, like the Crate resonates the most for me. It's a good blend of horror and comedy. Like even
Yeah.
what's her fucking name right now? Barbeau.
Call Me Belly, Adrian Barbell.
Adrian Barbeau. She's
Call Me
playing the
Belly,
rugged bitch
everybody
throughout
know.
the movie. And like, nobody likes her. And like that's the comedic part about it, really. And it's
Yeah,
satisfying when she actually, she dies. She gets killed by the
yeah.
crate monster, and the look on her fucking face is just priceless, man. Oh man, it's so graphic too, man. The crate when that guy gets killed, like he gets his neck like bitten out this side, and he gets his
Yeah.
face smashed. Like,
Oh,
oh man. All right, so we're on number 5. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think that Adrian Barbeau in The Fog. That's her movie, like that. It's like her and Tom Atkins, like they're the real starring actors in that. So she does stand out more in that than she does in like Creep Show. She's only like in a small segment of the movie, but I would pretty much agree with that. I probably do like Adrian Barbeau a little bit more in The Fog than I do with Creep Show. But I just you always see her in like these serious roles. I just never thought that she could pull off being such a bitch. Like pull it off to a T. Like it just her in that movie, like, I'm sorry, if that was a real person, I probably would have punched her in the face like just 5 minutes in after meeting her. But that's how good she is with the role. Ah, you know what? I got my number 5 here. Give me a second. I gotta go get it. Where the fuck is it? There it is. All right. All right, number 5 of the 80s. This actually should have been a little higher on my list. I'm just glad I didn't totally forget this movie, but yeah, this is definitely up there as a movie. I discovered this movie at a very young age. Used to scare the fucking shit out of me when I was a kid, but when I got older with it, I'm just like, wow, this movie's hilarious. Like, how the
La
fuck did
la
this used to
la la
scare me?
la.
Reminds me of Chris Farley and Tommy Boy when he's playing with the fan and shit. Luke. But yeah. So yeah, coming in at number 5 here from Dan O'Bannon, one of the greatest zombie films out there, in my opinion. And we have the 1985 film, The Return of the Living Dead.
yeah, that's a great one. Fuck yeah.
It's definitely, another annual watch for me. It's another movie that takes place on 4th of July weekend, they're all getting ready for the weekend. It's July
Mm.
3rd at this point. He's like, "All right, buddy, you have a good weekend, man. I'll see you when you get back and stuff." And what do you know, a couple hours later, he's calling Bert in. He's coming in and, we were playing with one of those tanks in the basement and the shit leaked out. And he's like, "Wait, I told you once before. I told you again, never to touch those damn tanks." But it's I think, Return of the Living Dead, I think, is a perfect example of how you blend horror with comedy. And this is the first time
Yeah.
we really get zombies in a movie that talk.
Yeah.
And to a point where it's
It's
not
true.
corny or it's they only say
Well,
like,
Day of the Dead. Yeah.
brains a couple times, and then like I know another zombie he gets on the CB and he's like, send more cops, and then the other zombie's like, send more paramedics. But it's I don't know, man. This movie used to terrify the shit out of me though when I was a kid. Like this would also be one of those movies where if I couldn't figure out what to rent at the video store, I'd be like, well, I'm gonna rent Return of the Living Dead again for like the 10th fucking time because I know I can rely on it. But it's really a great example of how you blend horror with comedy. And Dan O'Bannon really doesn't get a lot of credit as a director, but he co-wrote Alien. He was one of the co-writers for Alien, but he
Yeah.
would go on to write a lot of different scripts for horror movies. So he was really known more as a writer than a straightforward director. But I think what he got with this, what we got with this movie from Dan O'Bannon is like a damn near perfect horror comedy film. And from watching the features on this, one of the producers of the film, apparently when they were making the movie, he was on Dan's back every day about getting his kids in the movie. He's like, when are you going to be able to get my kids in the movie? And he's just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, so eventually he's like, all right, you know what? You have your kids here right now? He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, bring them in. He brings them in and he goes over to his special effects crew and he's like, I want you guys to put the most uncomfortable makeup on these two kids. I want you to make sure that these kids have the worst time ever with getting makeup on. So apparently they put all this spirit gum all over their faces with like dried up cereal and all this shit. And he left the kids there to sit in the makeup all day. And he's like, yeah, I'll let you kids know when we're going to film your scene. And then he's like, oh, you know what? We ran out of time today. You guys are going to have to come back tomorrow and put the makeup on again. They didn't come back the next day because the makeup was so uncomfortable. So that's how he got out of having to deal with these two little kids and the producers. I want my kids in the movie. And he's just like, nah, dude, it's not going to happen, man. But it's just funny that he went out of his way to, put the most uncomfortable makeup on these two kids. And he's like, let's see if they come back tomorrow. And they didn't come back. But, I think this is such a fun fucking movie, man. You got a lot of classic quotable lines throughout it. You get Linnea Quigley, she's got some iconic moments throughout it. Just a goddamn fun movie, man. It's really like this is another one that's going to be timeless for me. I'll be watching this. If I make it to 90 years old, I'll still be watching this movie.
Oh yeah, I'll be watching a lot of these. So we're 90 now, so I'll do my number
Yeah,
one
we're
now.
moving on to the 1990s where the horror genre gets a little mixed up here.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I'm gonna go with Child's Play 2 with my number one here.
Oh, I always forget Child's Play 2 is a 90s movie. I always
Yeah.
forget that shit, dude. I always think it's like 88 or something like that. So, all right. I don't have my full list right now for 1990. Let me put this together in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Let me show
I
that.
wish there was a way you could like pause a stream, but I guess that wouldn't be very live then, would it? All right, where's that one at?
Two is New Nightmare for Sebastian. Ashton's Child Play 2, number 2. Yeah, I gotta go back up and see you guys' number one for the 90s. Scream for Brooke. Sebastian Scream. Candyman for Chester. The Blair Witch Project sucked. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine, Rosie. You're allowed it like that. Scream for Ashton. 90s didn't have good horror. Definitely not the best. Rosalie has given Ash the bombs. Yeah, I figured it would have been. Yeah, nothing wrong with liking Blair Witch. That's totally fine. Misery, hell yeah. That Misery definitely made a honorable mention for me. Like Annie, like it's so fucking crazy. He's so crazy in that. Hey, Julie.
One, two, three, four. Shit, man. God damn it, man.
What did we do with it?
All right. I'll have to figure out the fifth one in a minute here. It's, technically the 90s are actually not easy to do because there's not a whole lot of great movies out there. But, all right, we're at number 5 for the 90s, right? Right?
Oh, number 1 for the 9.
Or number 1. All right, all right. Ooh, number 1. All right, what did you pick again?
I picked
Child's Play 2, right?
Child's Play 2.
All right. All right, my number 1 here. I did think about that. Like, this was going to make my list regardless, whether we picked 1 or 5 movies. But, yeah, this is just such a fucking fun movie. I think most of you guys in the chat should be familiar with this one. But for anyone in the chat who's never seen this movie, you're fucking up. You got to see this one. And, yeah, it's Peter Jackson's 1992 film, Dead Alive.
Oh, yeah.
That would be my number 1.
Great.
I just the realism of this movie and the effects are just relentless, dude. It's just, one minute you see this lady, like her head gets like plugged into a fucking like it's like a light socket outlet, and her whole face lights up from it. It's just like, how much more can we go on here? One guy gets his whole face taken off by a fucking lawnmower. There's just constant shit going on. And one zombie gets his head decapitated, and somebody takes a lawn gnome and sticks it into his neck. So he's walking around with this lawn gnome in his fucking neck. Like,
and that pudding scene.
I mean,
God.
Yeah, the eating. That's a movie where I'm like, I don't need no popcorn for this. Like, this is truly a movie where I cannot eat food and watch this at the same time. That's how gross it is. Like, it's, but I just love how this movie opens up. You got this guy looking for this rare rat monkey in this, I don't know, in this fucked up country or something, which, it's filmed in New Zealand because that's where Peter Jackson's from. But just the way that opens up, and then the guy gets bit by the rat monkey, and then they're like Zingaya, and they chop his fucking arm off. They chop his other arm off, and then he's got the bite on his head, and then that's when they chop him in the head, and that's when the title card comes up, and it's all bleeding and everything. It's just the perfect way to open up a horror comedy like this. So yeah, this is technically a horror comedy, but
It is
such a relentless fucking zombie film, man. It's just, it really this movie truly delivers the gore. Man, I just broke a fucking case. God damn it. Oh well. But yeah, Dead Alive. I'm sorry, I just got distracted there. But man, just such a fucking fun movie, man. Like, yeah, I know the full cut of this movie is labeled as Brain Dead. This is the unrated version, which is 97 minutes long. This is also, you know how much this Blu-ray goes for? This Blu-ray is expensive, dude. It goes for like $200 fucking dollars. I want to look that up right now.
That's fucked up.
Dude, it's just a regular ass fucking Lionsgate Blu-ray. And it went out of print. That's the reason why it costs so much money now. But I want to see what the price point is now. I found that shit at a regular video store years ago for like $13.
Yeah, I remember. Like, yeah, I used to own it on VHS.
Okay, it's not. Maybe the price went down. Did it go down? Dead Alive Blu-ray. Because I know at one point this thing was like $200 fucking dollars. I'm like, piece of shit fucking Blu-ray for fucking $200.
I'll just do my number 2 now. That Scream then is my number 2.
The original Scream, right?
Yeah, the original one.
Damn! They want $189 for this fucking Blu-ray. $189.
$189.
They want $189 because it's out of print, and the Blu-ray is nothing to write home about. But anyway, Scream.
Yeah.
I can't believe I fucking did that. Alright.
Gotta get through these.
Yeah, I hear you. Alright, alright, we're on number 2?
Yeah.
2. Alright, 2. 2. Fuck you. Alright. Coming in at number 2 here is a 1994 film, which I don't see a lot of people talking about this one. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of vampire films, really, but this is one that's always, resonated with me, really stood out, and surprisingly, one of the Tom Cruise movies that I don't really, hate that much. I really can't stand Tom Cruise, but I don't mind him in this one, and that's Interview with the Vampire.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie, but it's really Kristen Dunst, her as a little girl. That's what really does it for me, and Brad Pitt's really good in it too. But just to see her though at that young age, to see her like carry that role and actually be like controlling in her role like that is just like, dude, that's not something you see all the time. That's what really makes me appreciate that movie a lot. And hopefully we can get a new release someday. Because look at this fucking artwork. All right, maybe that's supposed to be blood on his lips, but it looks like lipstick. What the fuck, man? Like, this artwork is just fucking gay as shit, man. Does not represent the film at all. It almost looks like it's kind of attached to like a Twilight franchise or something. But yeah, it's a bad choice of artwork. I don't know why they couldn't just give us the original poster art there, but yeah, whatever. Zingaya. Yeah, I see some people got Tremors on their list there. Candyman. I really do like Candyman. A lot of people will seem to forget sometimes that it's actually a psychological thriller and not really a slasher film. So, like, I guess for anyone who wasn't sure that, yeah, Candyman is more of a psychological horror film. I like Candyman. I've always liked the movie, even the first time I saw it. It's just that when there's times when I watch it, I feel like there could be more to it. We could get more screen time from the Candyman. You could actually get more moments where he's actually like, disemboweling somebody or something. But it's really not all about that either, though. I understand that. So it's, I like Candyman for what it is. It's just not going to make my top 5 here for the 90s.
No. So we're on number 3 now, right?
Yeah. I just did my number 2. Yeah, we're on 3.
Yeah, so my number 3 is Candyman.
Okay.
That's fucking funny.
I just saw like somebody mention it in the chat, and I was like, well, I guess we'll talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Damn, we're already 2 hours into this stream.
I
Yeah.
know. I got a speeder up.
All right, I'm gonna try to fly through this. All right, we're on number 3, right? Number
Yeah.
3. All right. Coming in at number 3 is another one from the early 90s here, 1992, I believe. And yeah, it's another one that's along the lines of vampires and stuff, but I've always adored this movie. It has my favorite actor in it, Gary Oldman. To me, I think he's one of the best actors ever. He seems like one of the actors that could just, all right, well, whatever you have in mind, I can do it. It just seems like that type of actor. When you throw it at him, he'll do it. But yeah, coming in at number 3 is the 1992 film Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah,
And
that was
yeah, I
a good
know
one.
Keanu Reeves doesn't really stand out in this movie.
No, his accent's pretty bad. But
yeah, Keanu
it's
had to put
overall
in
a good
some
movie.
real work. I think Keanu had to put in some real work to become the actor who he is today. I'd say now he's definitely a legit actor, but in this movie, very
No, not
questionable
at
there.
all.
But
Gary
yeah,
Oldman
that's
for sure.
number 3. Number 3 would definitely be like I really just seeing Gary Oldman in that vampire makeup, and then at one point you get to see him in like the Wolf Beast, and then
Yeah, no,
there's
right.
so many instances and different things you can do with the vampire or him as a vampire as Dracula in this movie. Like even his long ass fingernails, his wild fucking hairstyles, and just the guy looks like he's legitimately dead. But yeah, that's definitely a 90s one that's very memorable for me.
Yeah, it is for sure.
So we're on number 4 now.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs. I don't know why it's anyways, you can't see them. Like Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter and man, Jodie Foster. It's a great
Yeah.
movie.
Some people
Almost one of
really
my
won't
favorites.
consider it. It's like some people won't consider Silence of the Lambs as, a straightforward horror film. I think
I
there's
do.
enough elements there to make it a horror film.
I think it is like a horror thriller.
Yeah. But yeah, my number 4 here, I've seen some people mention in the chat, just such a fun movie overall. I believe this is 1990, but really the only one in this franchise I care for. The second one's not bad for what it is, but yeah, coming in at number 4 is the 1990 film Tremors.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it's
love that
for a
movie.
creature feature and like the way that came out too, like it's it's the 80s ended or whatever, 90s came around, and then out of nowhere this creature feature comes out of nowhere with Kevin Bacon in it and stuff. I just thought it was really surprising to see this on the
Yeah,
shelf, back in the VHS days and stuff. But I think it's another one that's gonna, overall be a timeless film. It's gonna be watchable years and years later.
I think it will be for sure. What's that, Julie? You don't think it will be?
Oh.
All right, we're on number 5.
Yeah.
All right, did you go? Did you pick your 5 already?
No. Mine would be Army of Darkness.
Okay.
I was gonna put Misery down, but like that's an honorable mention for sure. Love Misery, but yeah, I always liked Army of Darkness for sure. Even though Army of Darkness is like low on my ranking for Evil Dead movies, but it's still great. I love it.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it. You know, it doesn't have that real horror element to it, which is kind of an issue for some fans of the
Yeah,
genre. But here's what I don't get though with that. Like so many people love Evil Dead 2. All right, that's horror comedy. It's horror comedy all fucking day.
yeah.
Like
So is this one. Yeah,
like I
but
just don't get why people can't have that go over into Army of Darkness. I don't get it. But I mean, I love all the movies really. Like, I even like Evil Dead Rise. It's just the last. If I were to rank them, it comes in last. And actually, if I were to
okay,
rank those movies, it would go in order. Like I like those movies in the order they came out.
right.
But yeah, coming in at number 5 for me is you know, I kind of just had to go on the fly here, but this is definitely another one I used to rent on VHS in the early 90s and always had so much fun with this one. And yeah, this actually is a Brian Usna movie, same director of Society, the 1989 movie, and other movies too. I know he was a producer on Reanimator, which is what really
Mm,
paved the way for him as a filmmaker. But yeah, coming in at number 5 is the 1993 film Return of the Living Dead 3.
yeah, it had its moments. Like I liked it. It's
It's I
definitely like
think for a
good.
horror comedy, it's just a very fun film. It's far from a perfect film, that's for
Yeah,
sure. But for being a low budget film that was direct to video, I think there's really enough there to, you know, for horror fans, really, there should be enough elements there for you to really appreciate the film. And I know it does something a little different with the zombie genre. You know, you have this girl who's brought back from the dead, and she can kind of still talk and do things that like normal human beings would do, which is probably a lot to take in with some horror fans. But there is some genuine scary moments throughout it. As the movie moves along, it kind of gets less serious, but I still find it to be a very effective film for what it is. But yeah, that's the
yeah,
1990s there. That would be my number 5, Return of the Living Dead 3, and it looks like we're moving on to the 2000s now.
right. Okay. Uh, this is when it's like uh starts going downhill. Let me back up. Well, there's some good movies. It's just not as many good ones. And my number one for 2000s would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, for sure. I just, I think it's a good remake, and Leatherface is pretty fucking scary in this one. I find more so than the original, but uh, Jessica Biel's in it. She was good. Like the cast is all good, and the sheriff in that movie's pretty fucking epic too. Like
Yeah,
Boyd or
played by
whatever. Like
R. Lee Ermey of Full
yeah,
Metal Jacket.
right.
But you know, I like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I just don't like the polished, overproduced look from Michael Bay. It's the only thing I don't like about the movie. It's just too many instances where I'm like, all right, why does everything look so clean? This is supposed to be a dirty ass movie, like, but I
Yeah,
still
see
enjoy it
that.
for what it is. It's got, you know, it does deliver some brutal and graphic kills throughout it, but I mean, for a remake though, it does deliver. You know, I actually I enjoy the other one too, the prequel, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning.
The
Like I
beginning.
think that and this movie, I think they're really not bad movies when you look at them on a level of remakes and the time period that these films were released. Definitely better than most of the crap we got. I know that. So it's these films. I think they do have their place out there. Really, when you compare them to what other films came out in this era. Far
Mm,
from perfect, but they deliver really what horror fans want to see. So, all right, that's your number 1.
yeah.
Number 1. All right, all right. My number 1 of the 2000s. All right. So yeah, I kind of surprised myself with this one, but it also really, says like, this decade just doesn't have a lot of great fucking movies to kind of reflect on. But yeah, my number one here from the 2000s is coming from Rob Zombie, and it's the 2005 film, The Devil's Rejects. I think
Oh,
this is
nice.
personally the best movie of the 2000s as far as a level of horror goes.
It's up there for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Rob Zombie had some issues with House of a Thousand Corpses, which I still enjoy that film. I know he was constantly, being hassled about certain things being too graphic, had to go back and cut scenes and make it less graphic in certain areas. But I think, Rob Zombie really learned a lot from that movie and was able to come up with something even better with The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, that's true.
But we're moving on number two now. Yeah.
So, yeah, my number two would be American Psycho. I love
Yeah, that
that
is a
movie.
good one. I don't know if that's making my list right now. It might get in there, but
Like just
yeah,
everything around it.
for a
It's
movie
fucking
that
hilarious.
focuses on like the 80s and the whole yuppie scene, I think like when you go into it, like if you're not familiar with the movie and you go into it, you're kind of like, what the fuck is this going to be about? But once you finally like invest yourself into it, you can see the film for what it is and how it works, and it's kind of singular too. Like I don't think American Psycho has really been ripped off by many people, and also at the
Yeah,
same time, I don't think American Psycho, with the way it is, I don't think it stole from anything. Like there is, I know, like at one point they talk about some serial killers throughout dialogue, and then they show him like working out while watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the background and shit. But I just think, American Psycho is overall a very clever film for the time it came out in like 2001 or 2 or something like that.
yeah,
But yeah, that's another one I think that has to be mentioned for the 2000s. But yeah, coming in at number 2 for me, we have another one here from 2005. And I remember seeing this one in the theater with fairly low expectations and being like, "Holy shit, I was dead wrong about this one."
mm,
And this is the 2005 film, The Descent. So I feel like this is another important
oh
horror
yeah,
film from this era, the early 2000s. I feel like this is definitely one of the better ones that we got. Something that's actually has a lot of rewatchable value too, and it really is another one that could play on like it could really play on like your your mental state of being claustrophobic because there's a lot of dark scenes throughout caves in this movie that can really
yeah,
give you a claustrophobic feeling. And on top of that, you got these fucking cave dwelling creatures fucking people up and stuff. But I think this movie is really something that's probably going to last for a long time, be talked about for a while. I know there was a sequel that came out to this, but I don't remember that being very memorable on in any kind of way really. But yeah, the original Descent though, this is definitely a worthy one, especially for a big studio horror film from this time period where it was mostly rehashed remakes and shit.
yeah.
Like that's
A lot
definitely
of
another
remake.
important one for this era that's got to be mentioned. And we're on number 3 now, right?
Yeah. Uh, my number three would be uh Dawn of the Dead remake. I think it's overall like a pretty good remake. And the 2000s, like there's so many remakes, like yeah, you know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I give it to Dawn of the Dead for that. Like it's good remake overall. I mean, Zack Snyder definitely not not as good as Romero or anything, but Jack Snyder did a pretty good job with this. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's great kills in it, and the zombies do look good. Yeah, and I love the whole mall setting thing's great.
Yeah, I enjoy the remake for what it is. I do remember that's another one that I saw in the theater, and I enjoy the film for what it is. But I don't know. I feel like some of the like the actual comedic elements in it kind of stand out a little too much at times. Because like
Mm.
there's times I
It
look at Dawn
doesn't
of the Dead,
bother me that
it's like
much
an
though.
action comedy film. That's kind of how I look at it. I don't even look at it as a horror movie. It just doesn't feel like a horror movie to me. But I guess like one thing that was definitely good with the remake, it brought a spotlight on the original film. It actually brought it to surface with some horror fans that were just not really open minded to older horror films. So that's the
Mhm.
importance really of that there, I think. So we're on 3. We got through.
Yeah.
All right, we're on number 3. All right, coming in at number 3. All right, coming in at number 3 for me. Actually, I gotta make sure this is a horror movie. I think this is a horror movie.
That
Fucking
is
crap.
true. The Friday remake does deserve a sequel. I think so, yeah. It was good. It didn't make my list, but it's definitely an honorable mention.
All right, so this is a horror mystery. It's labeled as, and this is from 2002, which features Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton, and this is
Oh, yeah.
Frailty.
Frailty. Yeah, that was going to make my list too. I love that
Yeah,
movie. It's
I,
great.
I'm pretty much going on the fly here, but it's definitely like I still think that would have made my list either way. I just had to make sure it was it had the horror genre in there. So I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a thriller or not. It's kind of hard to label that one,
I
but
yeah, that's the reason why I didn't put it on the list because I didn't know if it was a horror movie or a thriller for me anyways, but it's
yeah,
great movie.
overall,
Love
it looks
it.
like it's labeled as a horror mystery, which is like typical. So yeah, it is a horror movie, but it
Okay.
features
Yeah.
Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey. You got Powers Booth in this one.
That's
But
a good
just,
one.
I think this is a very thought-provoking and very clever movie, especially for
It
the
is.
time period in the early 2000s. This came out in 2002, but
And
I
Bill
feel like at
Paxton
this
wrote
point,
it,
though,
didn't he? And directed.
yeah, and he directed it too.
Yeah.
But I feel like the era that we're in now in like 2024, I really feel like this is a forgotten movie. Like
It
nobody ever
is.
talked about this. And maybe it's not easy to obtain. Maybe it's not on fucking Netflix or something. Who knows? But this is a
It's
movie
on
that really
Tubi.
needs to be mentioned more often. Like maybe this should even be higher on my list, really. But there's definitely no way I can get through, that early 2000s there and ignore Frailty. Nah, man,
Oh
that's
no.
that's a good one.
It is. I recommend it. If anybody hasn't seen it in the chat, I recommend watching it. It's great. It's on Tubi, I'm pretty sure.
And you also get a very young Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton in it too, which
Yeah.
is interesting to see. Especially like Matthew McConaughey, like he was known at that time, but he still wasn't who he is today. I wouldn't say he was like
No.
extremely, like, very well established actor. He was still putting his work in to put his name on the map.
Yeah. Oh,
But
but
we just got through 3 of them there.
yeah. 4 for me is House of a Thousand Corpses. Like I fucking love this movie. I always have. First time I seen it, like a Captain Spaulding and oh man, I just got a kick out of all of it. Fuck. Like Otis and I mean Sherry Moon Zombie, she isn't the greatest like actress, but I find she's great in these movies and The House of Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, and Three from Hell. I find Mary Zoon Zombie is good in them. Like other movies, I mean, sometimes kind of.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much. I think you and I had the same pick there at number 4. So
It's definitely got
yeah,
like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes throughout it, definitely. Yeah, I find quite a few scenes pretty brutal. Like the guy from The Office as what the fuck's his name in Dwight in
Yeah.
The Office, they turn him into the fish boy. I fucking love that.
You know, he's been a real help to me. You know, Bill's been a real help to me, man. Been having nothing but block. But yeah, my number
Yeah,
4 has got to be House of a Thousand
yeah,
Corpses.
man, fucking right.
You know, it's
Yeah,
just the way the movie opens up with that slow pan camera on a crane, and it's just slowly going down to the gas station, and then the
yeah,
music off the top of it's like, ooh, what the fuck's about to
I
happen?
know.
You see all this
Right.
fucked up shit outside. You see like like the mechanical clown just sitting there waving and shit. It's just like, what the fuck? Then you get the inside of the gas station, which is even more mind blowing. And yeah, we finally get introduced to Captain Spaulding, and
Just the
but I
dialogue,
really like. Besides the
provoking.
fact that Rob Zombie's making a horror movie, I really like the fact that he really went out of his way to go get classic horror actors for this movie.
Mm,
Like he got Karen Black. You know, she's known for a lot of classic horror films that she's done, and at that time she really wasn't. She wasn't retired, but she wasn't really making movies either. So she really wasn't interested in it. Rob Zombie had to talk her into it, which is another reason
oh,
why she
really?
didn't come back for Devil's Rejects. When she was asked
Okay.
to come back, she was like, "Look, Rob, I like working with you, but I'm done making movies. Like, I just don't want to do it no more."
Hmm,
That's why they had
cool.
to replace her as the mother fucking what the hell's her name? Mother Firefly or whatever.
Yeah,
But
most
you know,
people do like Devil's Rejects more. Yeah. Uh,
yeah, I mean, if you compare the two, I got to give the edge to the Devil's Rejects there. But I really like the fact that it takes place on it takes place on the night before Halloween and then into
mm,
Halloween. It really adds to it. Even the whole Dr. Wolfenstein segment where the guy's like,
yeah.
just
I
like
think it's
doing all
cool.
that goofy shit.
Yeah, that's
But
the
like
thing
I
about
did.
Rob Zombie, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Like
like
he has
that's the
music
thing. I
videos
like
of
the
that
elements that
guy
Rob
in them.
puts in his films. All those horror elements. Like a lot of the stuff that you see in the movie are his own personal artifacts that he has in
Hmm.
his house.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's a fun movie. It's House of a Thousand Corpses is far from perfect. Rob Zombie really had his challenges with making this movie, but for a directorial debut, it's really not that bad, dude.
It's
Most
not
directors' first movies are completely shit and forgotten.
most of the time. Yeah, I would have to
But you know
agree
what's
with you.
really weird though? Apparently, when he was getting ready to make the next movie, The Devil's Reject, they kept coming to Rob Zombie, the guys at Universal, and they were like, Rob, we like everything you're doing, but we think the next movie you're doing it needs to have a little more Rob Zombie in it. And he's like, okay. And he's like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself when they're saying that it needs a little more Rob Zombie in it. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Like, like what are you guys saying? It needs a little more Rob Zombie in it. He's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? But yeah, it's I can't like Rob Zombie's Halloween. That's grown on me a little bit more. It's still far from a perfect movie. It's
Mm.
hard to take in the whole white trash factor about it. So when I get to that part, I'm always like, oh fuck my life. I want to fast forward through this. But his second Halloween movie, I can't do that. That's a bad fucking movie, man. Really bad. I don't mind Lords of Salem. Like overall, Rob Zombie as a filmmaker, I would say I'm kind of mixed on him, but I think he really has potential to put out some decent movies, though.
Yeah,
I would like to see him come back with something, I'd like to see him come back with a horror movie.
yeah, not the monsters.
Yeah, like that to me, it's not a fucking horror movie.
No.
But what was that, number 4 we just did?
Yeah, so we're on number 5.
Alright.
So my number 5 would be Freddy versus Jason. Not like the biggest fan of this movie. Like, it's good and all, but yeah, I mean, it's the acting, the fuck, I can't stand it. And like, I do love the battle scenes of Freddy and Jason are great and all, but even some of that's a little cartoony in a way, a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I like it overall. Like, yeah, some of that dialogue is just horrible, but it's good. I mean, I remember seeing it in the movie theater when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it. But I think they could have made it a little better. But Freddy versus Jason, but you know,
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a hyped up thing over the years. It was talked about for so long that
yeah,
the expectations were really high, and when they weren't met, it just became a forgotten thing. I think some casting choices were really not the best choices throughout that
yeah,
too,
I
and
agree.
again, it's another late horror film in a franchise that has this over polished, overproduced look to it. It just in a way really drains the atmosphere out of it too. It just I mean, I'd say Freddy versus Jason has grown on me since it's really come out and stuff. It has some fun kills, but to
Mm,
me, it's kind of like a pothead movie. You smoke a joint and sit down with Freddy versus Jason. Take some bong rips and just not take yourself seriously for the next 2 hours.
right. Yeah.
But it's as far as like classic franchises go, it's something that's worth mentioning for this era. The 2000s. But
Oh, definitely.
but
Because
my
this is
number.
one.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was about to jump into the number 5, but if you're still talking, go ahead.
No, I'm not. Oh, go ahead, man.
All right, and yeah, my number 5 for the 2000s here, which was already mentioned, and this is what year is this again? What the fuck? 2000 just makes it. So yeah, American Psycho would be my number 5.
Yeah. I
You know,
love
I,
it, man.
I mean for
Hey, hey,
2000s,
pal. I love that.
he's ranting about the fucking Huey band and shit. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Hey, Sabrina, don't just stare at it. Eat it. Like, there's just so many great scenes. The part where
Yeah.
they're in the bathroom doing coke. He's like, I'm trying to get high.
Yeah, then they're at that one restaurant, and the guy comes out of the bathroom, and he's like, "They don't have a good bathroom to do coke here." Like, so
Yeah.
that's the whole reason to leave the restaurant because they don't have a good bathroom to do coke in. But I feel like this
I
decade
want to get
doesn't have
high.
a
I
whole
want
lot to
Snickle in my
really like.
fucking oatmeal.
There's really not a whole lot to reflect on for this decade, so that's another reason why there's no way I can get through this decade without mentioning American Psycho. But it looks like we're moving on to the 2010s now.
Yeah. Alright. Uh, this is when it gets hard because there isn't really a whole lot of great movies. But my number 1 would be Terrifier. It's great. Like Art the Clown, the fucking kills in it. Something different we haven't got in a while. I love like the grittiness to it. Like it's awesome. I think Damien Leone did a great job with Terrifier. It's great. I think Art will be a new horror icon for sure.
All right, I'm still like doing this on
Also,
the fly
Chucky
here,
for
which is like
Chester.
getting tougher now because this decade fucking sucks, and now it's even harder to go on the fly here.
It is,
But
yeah.
yeah, my number 10 or number 5 here for the 2010s. This might be a questionable one with some people, but I don't really care. I know when I first saw this, I found this movie to be effective. But you either like this guy or you don't. There's really no in between, even on this movie, I guess you could say. But I really thought this was a fresh of breath air when this came out. And it's hard to say if this is something that'll age very well. Trying to figure out the damn year on this right now. Of course they don't give you no fucking year on here, man. What the fuck? I think this was like 2015. I don't know. But yeah, it's coming in at number 5 for the 2010s Ari Aster film Hereditary.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So
I
I think
was
it's
thinking of putting it on, but I didn't.
yeah, I think it's one of the better modern horror films to really come out in the past. What I need to know the year right now so you can say that. Hereditary, fucking bullshit. 2018 it came out, so it hasn't even been out for 10 years yet. But I think in like the past like 5 years now, it's been out something like that, 5, 6 years. I think this is a very effective horror movie, especially with a lot of shit we get nowadays, man. I thought this had a really good cast in it. I thought for a movie that's supernatural too, and an A24 film, I thought this was like really I wouldn't say brilliant, but I thought this was just put together very well for what it was. And Tony Collette, and you got Gabriel Byrne as like the parents in this. The little girl is a little like awkward at times to really like sit down and focus on her character, but I think it's pretty creepy when you see what happens with her and how she actually comes back in the movie. And also, there's a scene like later on in the film where a particular somebody is like killing themselves, but they're obviously under the control of somebody else, which is like just mind blowing to see. But yeah, overall, I would say that I am a fan of Ari Aster's work. I like Midsummer. Everybody hates that one. I like Hereditary. Most people hate that one. I like Beau is Afraid. That's more of like a horror comedy with like some other genres kind of thrown in there. I thought that movie was decent, but I think Ari Aster is a decent director, especially in this modern age with all the fucking bullshit we get drowned with all the time. But overall, I just really thought that Hereditary was a breath of fresh air for the genre, and it's important to mention for this decade.
Oh, it is definitely worth a mention for sure. Chester says The Shallows. That's a good shark movie. It's definitely one of my favorite shark movies.
Yeah, it's not a bad one for having a lot of effects. It relies on a lot of effects, but
Yeah, it does.
it's
Yeah,
something that's just based on like one character too. It's just a girl like stuck out on a little island there or whatever, like a rock.
yeah.
And she was
No,
like
like
surfing or whatever. I mean, for a movie
yeah,
that is like, yeah, it doesn't have a lot of character development in it. It's not too bad.
yeah, exactly. Alright. So yeah, my next one would be Evil Dead 2013, was it? Yeah, 2013.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. 2013.
I like it. It's definitely not my favorite, but it's up there. It's a great one. Um, like just like even the practical effects is great. Like the opening scene was badass. This scene here where she's like slicing her face open with the glass mirror, like that's fuck. And she's like taking a real scalding hot shower, burning her skin and everything. Like I think it's creepy. Like it really is. And it feels like an Evil Dead film for sure. Like I think they did a
Yeah.
really great job with it. Fidel Alvarez, I think he did great. And I got confidence in this new Hal or not Halloween, Alien movie coming out. Alien Romulus. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, Fede Alvarez, I think his name is, the director. But a lot of people have issues with the Evil Dead remake, even though it does seem to be well liked by a lot of the fans. I liked the film. I remember seeing it in the theater and being like, "Holy shit, this was not what I was expecting at all." But saying that in a positive way. But I just like I know some people have issues with the whole drug aspect, like the drug addiction thing and all that, but I think it's a well-crafted story. And I do
I
like
think
that there's
so.
really no comedic elements. It kind of goes back to its roots again of being a sinister movie. Like there's nothing funny about this film, like at all. Like nothing
Mm.
even unintentional and unintentionally funny, but yeah, it's definitely a worthy one. That's more than likely going to make my list here. So we're on number 4 right now.
Uh, 3, I think. Is it
I
one?
only did one so far, which was
Oh,
Hereditary.
yeah, we're on our number 2. Yeah.
So, oh damn, I did it backwards. I went from 5 to
Oh,
1. So Hereditary is definitely not my number 1. That's for sure.
oh,
Fuck, I
okay.
did it backwards. This stream's all fucked up, isn't it?
Oh, don't worry
I
about it. It's
gotta
all
do all
good.
this shit on the fly, man. This turned into a disaster. But anyway, what the fuck number am I on? All right.
So,
All right, I'm gonna have to do it backwards because I already started it that way.
okay.
So I got to do it at number 4. So man, what a fucking mess. All right, number 4. All right, my number 4 here. That's gonna be 3, 2, 1. No, yeah. All right. So my number 4 is a 2019 horror film here, which I think is one of the better modern ones, especially from Shudder. This is actually a Shudder original movie here. Did a watch party for this one back around Halloween, and this is from the writers of A Quiet Place and producer Eli Roth. Actually, Eli Roth did produce this one, and this is Haunt.
Oh, I never saw that one.
Yeah,
But,
dude, highly recommend this one, man. It's really good for what it is.
Oh,
It's
okay.
about a bunch of kids that they're I think it's on Halloween night. They're at a boring Halloween party and they don't want to do the typical same old bullshit on Halloween. So they end up finding this really elaborate flyer for a haunted attraction to go to. And they're like, why don't we go to this haunted attraction? And when they get there, they have to turn over their keys and their cell phone in this like lockbox. You're not allowed to go in there with your car keys or your own cell phone. And you have to sign a disclaimer saying if you get injured in here, we're not responsible for all this shit. And they go inside, and of course, fucked up things start happening to them. But you got people in the movie that are dressed up in these crazy masks. Like you got one guy who's dressed up as a devil, one guy who's dressed up as a ghost, another guy who's dressed up as like a creepy clown. There's a girl who's dressed up in like a witch's mask. But as the movie goes along, you start to learn that some of these guys with the mask on, when they take their mask off, they actually have another mask on under it, and this is their real face. And their faces are all like deformed and fucked up, but
Yeah.
there is like a whole mystery behind it. They don't really go on backstory with these characters in these costumes. There's not much backstory on that. But there is a lot of creative things throughout it. Like there's even a spider scene in the movie that kind of creeped me the fuck out for a few seconds. But overall, I thought it was a really creative film, especially for at this point how tired the genre can really seem to be, and how it seems to be just filled with people who just can't be creative with things anymore. We just got to keep remaking what's already been done.
Yeah.
But this is really a movie that doesn't feel like it's been borrowed or ripped off of anything. It really does its own thing while being
That's
creative, and I
cool.
hope they don't try to franchise this shit and come out with Haunt Part 2. Like that'll just not gonna work, man. Start something else. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that one to you, P. Like I think you'll end up liking that one, and anyone in the
Yeah,
chat.
I'll
Like let's
watch.
say if for some reason you don't think it's as good as I think it is, I think you'll still find it to be watchable.
Yeah, I'll give it a go for sure, man. I'll probably watch it tomorrow or something.
Yeah, I mean, it is a movie that takes place on Halloween. It's got that whole vibe and atmosphere to it, but you could watch it almost any time of year. It don't matter. But I think you'll enjoy it,
All right, so
especially how the end plays out. The end plays out with like, it's a little unpredictable, the ending, I think.
okay, so my next one would be Life.
Wow, it's a sci-fi horror film, right?
Yeah, it's got Ryan Reynolds and what's his name? Fuck.
The black
Jake
guy, his name's like
Jake
Chivel
Gyllenhaal.
or something. Like I can't never pronounce his name.
Jake Dillenshall. Dillenshall.
Yeah, Gyllenhaal's in it too.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
there
thought it
is
was really good. What?
no, there's like a scene in the movie where like the camera focuses on Jake Gyllenhaal's face and he has the most dumbest looking smile ever going on. Like it's something that like just like is like permanently in my head. It's like him smiling, looking stupid as shit. But I
In
do
which
enjoy
one?
that film, Life. I do like it,
Oh,
and I
Life.
really
Yeah.
like the end of it. The end of it was like, yo, fuck, dude. I didn't see that shit coming.
Yeah.
But I
I
overall I
like
do
that.
enjoy that one though, Life. I thought it was good for what it was.
Yeah.
So that's your number two.
No, I'll do
Three?
number 3
Alright,
for
I'm on
sure.
number three too, but I'm going the other way. So,
Alright.
alright, yeah, my number three would have to be the 2016 movie, Terrifier.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Terrifier there. I know,
Fuck
like, I
yeah.
remember when the movie was, like, being hyped up and everything, I was like, like, why are people so flipping out over this Art the Clown bullshit? Because, like, the first movie wasn't even anything to write home about. So I finally, I gave it a watch and everything, and I can, really see why some people enjoy these movies, and they get very graphic at times too, which I think really helps to sell the movie. Because you have a character who's dressed up in a clown suit killing people, but he has no dialogue. How far can you really take that before it gets played the fuck out and really doesn't deliver anything? So the best way to really make up for that is have graphic kills to actually distract the viewer in a good way.
Right. And he does kind of have a personality in a way without talking, with the mimes shit.
Yeah, yeah, it relies heavily on that, but it's also effective. So,
Took
all
us
right.
5 decades. What do you say? Oh, Rosalie. Took us 5 decades to get here.
She's not lying, it did take us 5 decades to get to this moment. Yeah,
uh,
I see Brooke just mentioned You're Next. That is another good one. I think that came out in like
it's
2014. That's a fun one.
yeah, that's next on my list.
Is it really? All right,
It
what a
is, yeah.
coincidence. But I personally, I forgot about the movie. That's why it's not making my list. I completely forgot about it. But
It's a good slasher, and it's good twist to it too. Like I remember the first time I saw it. I haven't seen any good slashers at the time when this came out for a while, and I was like, damn, like I was surprised like how like good it was. Like I'm not saying it's like amazing or anything, but it was good. Like I always enjoyed it.
Like I agree with you there because I also feel like at that time in 2014 there wasn't a lot of good things coming out, or at
No,
least anything worth talking about. Like, and then I remember when it came out, I was at Best Buy and I was there the day it came out on Blu-ray, and I was like, "That's just do a blind buy, man," because like I'm either gonna walk out of here with this or I'm not getting anything. So I went
yeah,
into it blindly just after buying it, and I was like, it's really not a bad film. And then really the twist of when you find out the boyfriend has set up all this shit to kill the
right?
family to get the inheritance money. I didn't see all that shit really coming.
No,
So I really did
no,
like that twist about it. And the fact that these killers are doing a home invasion without actually invading the home. They're trying
yeah,
to kill these people with like bow and arrows and crossbows and shit
I
through
know,
windows
right?
and stuff.
Yeah, a lot
But
of people compare it to that Ready or Not movie, and I can see why, but I think this is way better than that Ready or Not movie.
yeah, I didn't see Ready or Not. It didn't look appealing to me, so I skipped it.
It's really not that good of a movie, in my opinion, anyway.
I mean, I'll probably see it eventually, but it just never stood out as something striking to me that I need to jump on right now.
Yeah.
But all right, I'm on my number 2 now. So my number 2 for the 2010s here, which was already mentioned and rightfully so, and that's the Evil Dead remake from 2013.
Mm.
But you know, there is moments in this movie. Like I remember when I was in the theater, and you get that opening scene when the father is about to burn his daughter alive, and he's like,
Yeah.
"No, Daddy, don't do it." And then like he lights her up, and he's like, "You stupid fuck!" In that evil voice, he's like, "Oh man." But it's as the movie goes along, and that one girl chops off her own arm with the meat cutter, the electric knife meat cutter thing. It's just like, wow, this movie just keeps going up the graphic steps right now. It's just most movies kind of go down a bit. It'll peak in kills and like graphic kills, and then it kind of goes down. No, this one just keeps going. It just keeps going up the ladder with the graphic kills.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned the original Strangers. That's the only one I like in the franchise, and I'm not huge on the Strangers movie really, but it's good for what it is. I kind of look at that as more of like a thriller actually than like a straightforward horror film.
Just hold on.
So we both have 2 more picks to go. Or no, he's got 2 more to go. I got 1 to go.
Wait, one more to go. I got.
Or we both have 1 more to go. So this will be a 3-hour stream.
Shit, eh?
But that's what happens when you're picking 5 movies for 5 decades between 2 people. That's 3 hours. Like if I knew that beforehand, I would have been like, "This is going to be a 3-hour stream." I can tell you that right now.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, my number 5 would be Doctor Sleep.
Nice, dude. I was thinking about adding it, and I was like, "There's a couple more I kind of prefer," but I'm just glad it at least got mentioned because I do like Doctor Sleep a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think it's a pretty good like sequel for sure. So,
Yeah,
even
it does a good job with the look of the hotel in it. I was like, wow,
it
like
does.
I actually feel like I'm watching like an extension of The Shining right now. Like it's I was kind of like on the fence about it when it came out. I didn't really know much about the novel or anything, and it was like, you know what? Let's just fucking watch it. There's only one way to find out. Let's just sit down and watch it. And I went right for the director's cut. Because that's
Right.
another thing I was told by people, like, you should just watch the director's cut. So I went right for the director's cut, and I loved it, dude. It was great. Like, it's another thing I really enjoyed about it. It had me so invested in it when it was over. I was the only reason why I was disappointed because I was like, God, there's no more left. Like, it's over now. I hate that when you got like such a good movie and it's got to come to an end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a worthy one. I'm glad it got mentioned because I was thinking about adding it in there, but it just missed my list.
Okay.
So that leaves me with my number 1 for the 2010s, right? 2010s, my number 1.
Sorry, man.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
it happens, man. I've done it before, man.
Biggest slip.
At first I was like, damn, did he just end the stream like
No.
that? But all right, so yeah, my number 1 here. Like, this isn't strictly a straightforward horror film, but it is a horror. It's a horror / western, and I think this is really one of the better modern horror films to really come out, and you have a really good leading actor in this one. And this is the 2015 film Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I personally think this is the best horror-related movie we got in the past 10 years. Well, hasn't been out for a full 10 years yet, but just that decade though, where this came out in the 2010s, I really think this is the best movie we got. And yeah, it's a horror western, is what it's labeled as. You have your elements of a western in it. Obviously, it takes place in that time period, but At one point, there's a particular character whose wife ends up being kidnapped by these cave-dwelling creatures that live out in the fucking mountains. So Kurt Russell and anybody else that he can trust to go with him, they go on this journey to try and rescue his wife back from these cave dwellers, and they go through all these crazy situations just to actually, rescue the guy's wife again, and people die along the way and all this shit. Hell, you even have Sid Haig. Sid Haig is actually in the beginning of this movie. He gets killed early on, but him and David Arquette, which is really odd to see. It's Sid Haig and David Arquette in the beginning of the movie, but yeah, I personally think this is the best thing to come out horror related in the 2010s. So if you haven't seen Bone Tomahawk, highly recommend seeing this one.
Yeah, it's great.
So that looks like that is that. But yeah, I did not realize that we were going to be doing 5 movies for all 5 decades like that until we started the stream. But I still managed to go on the fly here and kind of get things done. It was a little challenging, but I got it done. So I just know next time I got to ask a few questions before I go, hey, oh, you're streaming tonight? Cool. Send me the link. I'm gonna have questions for you next time. So
yeah. Yeah, man, that was
but
fun.
yeah, other than that though, I know I said the other night when I was streaming on Sunday, I was like, the next stream is going to be Friday and Sunday. I was dead wrong about that. The next
Really?
stream is actually this Wednesday. We're going to be
Okay.
watching Rambo 4 at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my channel. So that's this Wednesday. And then Friday, we're going to be right back into the John Wick series with John Wick Chapter 3 at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So instead of doing the usual Friday and Sunday, we're going to be doing Wednesday and Friday. Because the reason why we can't do it this weekend is because we have Juno's birthday coming up on Monday. So I didn't want to get slammed with 3 streams in a row like that. So that's why I stretched it out and planned it out that way. So Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday for Juno's birthday.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna thank you all very much in the chat for hanging out with us tonight. It looks like we had well over 10 people for the whole stream. But yeah, thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Brooke, Rosalia, Ashton, Zodiac, Sebastian, Ashton, yeah. Oh, and Chester Franklin. So thank you. But yeah, this was it was interesting and fun to do this.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna sign off here now.
All right, take care, P. I'll talk to you in the next one, and take care, everybody in the chat. I'll see you all Wednesday.
Good night, everybody. See you later, Sean. Bye.